Allegiance.
No,
Goodness.
I feel bad about that. I love the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Well, lucky for you, the live.
We'll let you have time.
Live stream's not working because.
Commissioners, we are live.
Okay, so we're gonna try this public comment thing over one more time. So, all right, Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. On Monday, we went to Clay County and requested money from them for community corrections. They did approve the full amount of $37,791.85. We will also begin working with them on a new interlocal agreement since the one we have is from 1986. And so it's a little outdated. And then on Monday afternoon, we also
Were you born yet?
I was, thank you.
It wasn't even me.
Yeah.
She was quick to jump on the response.
There's no time. Monday afternoon, we also received another letter from Kansas Department of Corrections that they, Riley County Community Corrections for the Adult Services has received an additional $84,808.55. But only $22,131.15 of that can be used towards personnel. So our Riley County appropriation request has decreased since both of these things have improved. We will bring that back to you, but we just wanted to bring you some good news. So,
Oh, good news.
thank you.
Good news is good news. Okay. Any other public comment? I almost just want to stop right there.
Yeah, that's really, let's end the meeting while we're ahead.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We didn't have a whole bunch of
No.
stuff I'd actually say.
Forget that, yeah. Kidding.
Do we have anything else then? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to commissioner comments and Commissioner McKinley.
All right, well, Monday evening, we went to the Manhattan stop on the Catbacker, KSA Catbacker tour. And a few of the student athletes there and several of the coaches there had food trucks available to start the evening. And then it was a fun evening, informative, but also something. We have a couple of coaches that are very entertaining. When they get up there, yeah, they have, and they know how to run the crowd. And a couple of athletes were pretty good too. But it was an enjoyable evening, big crowd. Then yesterday I met with the new deputy counselor, Bryant Parker, just a chance to learn more about each other and learn about and discuss what we see going on for the county. That was it.
Okay. Commissioner Coe.
Okay. Well, Tuesday, I spent some more time going through the consultant presentations, evaluations. It's tough. They're all really excellent companies with varied experiences. I finally got it to Amanda last night, scanned everything and sent it to her. Later, Tuesday, I watched portions of city commission meeting. Sounds like they're going to appoint someone to fill the vacant seat. They're taking applications to do so. And possibly do the appointment next week. So, and they didn't really discuss a lot of it.
They appointed Karen.
Was it Karen?
Mhm,
Okay, yeah, okay. I didn't write that one down, so. Then yesterday I met on a Teams Zoom call regarding the Keats project with Brian Foster, Rich Fargo, Brian Parker, and Amanda Webb to discuss the updated lagoon plan. John Ellerman was unable to attend and Brian needs some projected costs from him. So he and Amanda are going to get together hopefully tomorrow. And get that done so they can get a presentation to us on design. Yeah.
Getting closer.
Yeah, it's getting closer. It's looking good. They came up with a good idea for dealing with the water table.
Oh,
And then I also yesterday reviewed the agenda and documents for today's meeting, finished the evaluations for Amanda, and like I said, emailed them to her last night. So that's all I have.
Okay. Well, as for me, it's been a week. It's been a week. But just a couple of things. Law board meeting Monday afternoon. As usual, pass the consent agenda, just, has, just the monthly expenditure credits, journal entries, inmate population review, all the crime reports, all that's all contained in that, nothing changed. General agenda items, we had some public comment, it's budget season, that's typical. Had a pretty good update from the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 17. Some board members had some comments. Director Pete went through the CALIA Accreditation Award, 9 rounds of that, the longest in the state of Kansas still, so always good. We discussed the 2025 Special Alcohol Fund Grant Agreement for a mental health case manager. That's coming from the city of Manhattan, so that's not an actual position that's going to be ad valorem. And we discussed the COPS Office 2024 Technology and Equipment Program funding. As you'll recall, that's the grant that was announced by Senator Jerry Moran the week before. Don't have all the specifics on that just yet. I'm sure those details will be coming shortly, but piece by piece, we are discussing it. And obviously the big piece was the 2025 budget. We did settle on budget request number 3, lies directly in the middle. It's a 5.58 increase over last year's budget. Insurance and that salary survey is the large part of it. Their insurance cost overall went up almost 20%. It's ridiculous. I have some other choice words, but this is G-rated, so we'll just leave it at that. So keep in mind, that's the published rate. Can't go above it, still can go below it. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to vote for it or against it at this point in time. I'm going to continue to review and ask some questions. We had 4 separate executive sessions dealing with some discipline matters and some attorney-client privilege matters as well. So not a terribly long meeting considering, but not a short one either. Tuesday, I attended the board of directors meeting for the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. They approved the agenda from the meeting before. I wasn't at April's meeting because we were down in Pittsburgh. Got an update through financials through the end of April, membership accounts, always typical discussion items. It went through the 2023 audit. Everything checks out pretty good there. Dr. David Rakowski and Senior Vice President, Dr. Marshall Stewart came in and gave the K-State corporate engagement and economic development plan. There's still some work to be done on that, but kind of more of an update of where it stands currently. Pretty good discussion, question Q&A came out of that. Then we had a pretty robust discussion on the Evergy substation expansion. Be expecting the letter of support coming. I don't know who's all going to sign on to that just yet, but it's coming. Just giving you a heads up on that. Kind of laid out where things kind of lay, but I have to be kind of objective at this point in time because we still have to have that actual public hearing. It's going to be fun. That's all I can say. We also got some updates on possible business park, some housing initiatives, the childcare, the incubator that they're working on the application process for the executive director for that. Don't have all the funding to do it outright, but I think as the process goes along, I think they're going to be able to fill in the gaps and make all that work. And it's going to be quite the expansion there.
They haven't broken ground yet.
They have not. I think they're trying to get all the administrative pieces in place, and then that process will take place there. Kind of like handing it off to that person, and then here it's your responsibility to figure it out. Maybe you gotta understand on this one. There's not a blueprint. There's not a process, so you're just kind of creating it as you go. So, but you have at least about half of the funding, about 40% of the funding there. So more than enough to get going on it. And, I think along the way there, they'll find the rest of it to fill in as they move along. So should be good. Heard from some other board members. We discussed the chiropractor here in town that passed away last week. Great. I can't remember his last name now.
Yeah, I heard it just on the radio yesterday.
recreational accident,
So I heard.
out in Colorado, young guy, late thirties. So, yeah, everybody knew him pretty much. And, discussed some things related to the city meeting that took place on Tuesday as well. Heard from staff and, various things that are going on there as well. And, pretty much sums up that meeting. And then, met with Shiloh this morning, had to go over, pay my tags and taxes. It's kind of convenient. Yeah, your last week's
Yeah,
stuff too,
too,
yeah,
yeah.
so maybe, wanted to get that done a little earlier this year. I usually procrastinate, wait to the very last moment, but give me an opportunity to talk to Shiloh on a couple of things too. Always appreciate that dialogue and conversation. We hopefully can work together to get some things ironed out in the future. Looking forward to being able to do that, so. And then just lastly, I talked about a text message that I got. Usually when I check the mail, it's just full of other spam, but it's election season, but
Yeah,
got that cool little thing.
I
in
got
there.
one of those too.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that it comes from the Taxpayer Protection Fund. And the address listed on it's from Washington DC. So, says call your city commissioner at 587-2404. I don't even know if that's a number or not. 587?
Mhm.
Okay, that was the other thing I looked on there. On this one, they did mention aquatics. On the text message, it was just recreation.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess I can't complain on that, but anyone else see that? I like to have that staff there just on my own, to be honest with you, but. Yeah, guess it's that time of the year. So anyway, that's all I've got this morning.
Ready for business commissioners?
Yeah.
Need a motion on a resolution for voiding outstanding checks issued by Riley County prior to April 30th, 2022.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve, resolution number 052324. A resolution for voiding outstanding checks issued by Raleigh County prior to April 30th, 2022.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 052324. Resolution for voiding outstanding checks issued by Riley County prior to April 30th, 2022. All in favor? Aye.
Three, please sign. Commissioners, would all of you like to go to Good Morning Manhattan on June 20th?
I kind of have to.
That's true.
As far as I know, yeah.
Greg?
yeah,
Yes, sir.
Mark, how you doing? Good. And commissioners, regarding the proposed conservation district tour. Some proposed dates are Thursday, September 5th. Thursday, September 12th. Thursday, September 26th, and Monday, September 30th are open currently.
So far in advance.
Yeah, that's the reason though. We gotta do it while it is open.
Yeah.
Say those dates again.
Be the 5th, 12th, 26th, and 30th.
What time of day? Because the 5th is a Thursday.
Yeah, do not have a time of day. I just, 1 to 5. 1 to 5, sorry.
I don't think the 5th or the 12th is gonna work for me.
Okay,
I have usually a 4 o'clock on that first Thursday and a 1 o'clock on that second Thursday. The rest of them, I think probably would work.
so the 26th or 30th commissioners? Both work?
Let's see, the 12th, let me see, is that the third Thursday?
Be the second Thursday.
Yeah, that one would probably work better this one. Yeah.
That will work for me.
The 12th doesn't work for John.
Oh, I thought you said.
No.
Yeah, the only two that really work for John are the 26th and 30th. Those okay with you, Captain?
Either one.
Okay. We'll see what we can do on that. Thank you. Any changes in the minutes, commissioners?
No, I didn't.
Well, they to approve the minutes of the May 20th meeting.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the May 20th meeting of the Broward County Commission as written. All in favor?
No tentative agendas, look, commissioners.
A couple questions on the third. It does list that discussion for the substation on there. I believe that's been moved to the 8th. Is that right?
It has been
Okay,
moved.
so we just haven't taken that off of there.
Actually, on mine, it's off, so yeah.
Oh, it is off of there now. Well, it was on there originally.
Oh, so I didn't see them.
And it's listed on there for Julie at the health department to discuss space needs.
What is that?
Does that have to do with Kanza?
It does,
Okay.
and it probably stems from an email that I sent because I thought the commission want to have a discussion on it. And I suggested that we not allow squatters' rights before that discussion is had because that's pretty common.
Oh, so people move in there on their own. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I just wanted to. Facilities, I don't want to.
It is
have that
regarding
discussion until we have our
Kanza.
retreat in the fall.
Relocation.
Okay,
Anything else, commissioners?
no, that's it.
We do not have a press conference next Monday. At least I will not be at one, so we don't have to address that till the next week.
Okay.
Sound good? Next, commissioners, you have Amanda Webb at 9.
One thing I was gonna mention later, but if you look at the agenda, send me all that, this letter from Gary County.
Yeah, I got it both through email and.
If we want to set up a time to discuss it, if you guys, and I can fill you in on what's not said in this letter.
Okay. I was wondering, because. Do you have to do that one open or is that through executive session? I think we can do that through executive session. can't we? I don't know.
Come again, what are we talking?
Well, we got a letter from, it's regarding the North Central Kansas Regional Juvenile Facility.
Yeah.
That Gary County had sent us a letter because they're concerned about some things
It's
and want
personnel.
a response.
Oh, yeah, we should, what because it's personnel, I think a good course of action would be we can discuss an executive session,
It's not our personnel.
but it's not our
It's not our.
Okay, well, since it's not our personnel, we need to talk about it in the field.
It'll be kind of a stretch, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
But if you put it
Yeah,
on
that's
the
fine.
next meeting, if you want to put that on one of the next meetings and we'll discuss it, just
especially
need to have a
if
discussion before
communication.
we go back to the next meeting. All right, I got a note from the Morris County Commissioners. They've reviewed it. They're sending a written response.
Okay. I briefly touched bases with one of the commissioners over there on it and said we would be discussing it. So one by some shape or form.
I'm sure a copy of that came to Clancy.
Yes.
But I'll track down a copy of that too, so I can review it.
I have a digital copy. Right?
Okay, so a copy of it.
Thank you so much. I'm a fan of those kind of socks too.
Me too.
Back.
Nice.
We're matching.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
No, I never.
I have a whole
asked
series of
you.
Abraham Lincoln ones too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Brian, I never asked you, do you follow K-State sports? And
Yes,
are you a fan?
I am.
Okay,
am.
I didn't get that cleared yet.
Yes.
Well, we're already moving in the right direction here, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Your predecessor was
See the other
of the
day.
opposite persuasion.
So I actually studied at and it wasn't for my bachelor's. There was no way I was going to go to Katy for my bachelor's, and I don't want to offend people in the community that may be listening. Like I don't.
You're my friends.
Okay. Don't hate KU, right? I actually went to a graduate program there that they didn't have at K-State. And so, it was fine, but it's a little weird to go to a school that you don't root for, right? I mean, it's like, I felt a little schizophrenic, especially when they played K-State. I'm like, I just kept silent, you know what I mean? Or actually, no, I just root for Cape City. So I
That
just,
with me was when I actually took the official tour of the university.
uh-huh.
That's the only school I've ever campus I've been on where it doesn't matter. I didn't actually fill them out, and I'll explain to you why.
Okay, no, that's okay. I just want to make sure I didn't
Yeah,
miss anything.
Did you get mine?
no matter which direction you're walking there, you're uphill.
Yeah,
Be going north, south, east, west, you are uphill every single direction.
the whole thing's uphill. The whole thing's uphill. And I mean, there's good people there, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I grew up going to Big 8 football games and it's here and it's just, I'm not wired for crimson and blue. So,
Is anyone marked? Is anyone marked crimson and blue?
I mean, yeah.
Don't know of anybody in this community.
I didn't think so.
My son went to med school at KU,
yeah,
K-State undergrad. So they had their white coats on, they had the J-Doc and the coats, but they had the K-State, yeah, they had to wear it to counteract the.
uh-huh, yeah, it's a thing, it's a thing. I know it's sacrilege to some people, but Bramlage is such a nicer place to watch a basketball game too. You know, you go into Allen and it's like, I only went a few times because I couldn't see. But I mean, isn't that terrible?
I went to graduation. My niece a year ago to Allen, and it's not air conditioning.
Really?
And it is as hot as it can be to be in there for graduation, but this made for basketball.
Yeah. Well, it's a bummer. I mean, it's a huge square. And when you think about when it was built in 55, I mean, I know again, if I was not in Manhattan, I'd be excommunicated from loving basketball for criticizing Allen Fieldhouse. But it's like they had round. I mean, Wichita State has a, and I don't understand why they didn't just make it round. Because then it would have been better viewing. But
Well, actually, Allen was kind of built off the concept of Ahern.
They just wanted it a little bit bigger than the burn.
well, that makes sense. Now that
That would be in Tampa.
Yeah.
wow.
But also, we went to the women's game, the women's basketball game last year. And I assume because they're sold out all the time, the ticket office and right, the ticket office didn't have scanners to do your card. They had to take it and write and you do the old thing where you type in the number.
Really?
They didn't have scanners. And there was a huge line because they didn't know what to do with people buying tickets at the door because there was a pretty good crowd there.
Well, at least like football stadium, at least they have bathrooms there.
That's true. At least it didn't. This wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See for that, I think this.
I know.
Did I hear their great football plans have gotten downscaled?
Yeah. Went from, went from 50 something to 47,000.
Oh, they're reducing the size
Yeah.
of it, yeah. Reducing the seating. But leaving right now, they're leaving the east side as it is, just doing the
Yeah.
west and south.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad they're renovating. Yeah, they are using a lot of state money. In fact, so much so that if they didn't have it, I don't think they could do it. They planned a whole like little entertainment district, like an edge district type of thing around it too, and that's,
We don't have that.
yeah.
Table now,
You'll just say, yeah, that's probably what got.
and not adding any parking.
Mhm. Although, all the street blocks around there, there's plenty of places to park around there. They kind of just let it go, but for many, many years, if you don't have very many people in attendance, I guess it's not a problem. If you start getting attendance, then maybe it becomes a problem. I don't know. Okay. But we are gonna have to talk about the iced coffee thing. That's kind of disgusting.
Right, this is why we're friends.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I know, I can't.
And this is why I don't like your generation.
We don't take it personally. It's like,
He does.
they are addictive. Those, oh my gosh, they know me there already. Like,
Which one do you go to?
I go to the one, just off of Fremont.
Oh,
One right over here.
across the
Yeah.
way.
It's too convenient, guys.
I think you did 2 a day yesterday, didn't you?
I did.
I saw in the afternoon one that was pretty full, so
Uh-huh.
as he's walking across the parking lot, I thought he is addicted.
Well, I mean, literally, when I drove through today, he said, "Trip 1, huh?" They're expecting me to come back, and I was like, "Yeah, I may have a problem."
No,
He had to go back and get a second one before the meeting with me. I'm not sure what that meant. He had gone back and get a second one before I came in there.
Don't read anything into it. Trust me. Of course, those are decaf, right? Oh, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm afraid that would be dishonest.
Did you get a summary of all these for each one?
I didn't,
Oh.
I was waiting for everybody's sheets.
Oh, okay. That's on me.
No, we'll talk about that.
Oh.
But I have it, I just, and now that I know that, you know, we don't have it. So I had to give it to everybody, but
Okay, and you go ahead, it's 9:00.
thank you. All right, good morning, Commissioners, Amanda Webb, Planning Director. We are here to talk about the comprehensive plan update with consultant selection. Today's discussion is kind of part 1, if you will, of the consultant selection process. We have 5 submittals that we received in response to our request for qualifications that we sent out at the beginning of April. And you've all received those. Our selection committee, of course, is comprised of you folks, myself, Bob, and Vivian. You all received your hard copies of the submittals and your evaluation sheets. And we talked a couple weeks ago kind of about how we want to move forward with the schedule with evaluating what we've received. And then coming back together this morning to make our selections on who we want to interview. So basically part 2 of the selection process is interviewing. And then we would interview the firms. I'll have fresh evaluation sheets and interview questions for when we do that. And then after the close of those interviews, we'll make a selection on the actual firm that we want to get under contract with and move forward with. So again, what we're doing this morning is basically selecting who we want to interview. We have to interview at least 2 as per our procurement code. We can, I don't want to limit. So if for any reason you folks want to interview all 5, I don't want to say, no, we're not going to do that. I'm not sure that's the most efficient use of time. So probably I would suggest if we want to kind of do our top 3 or identify 3 firms that we want to interview, that's probably good practice. But again, we can talk about that if there's some concern with that. And then once we do that, once we kind of decide who we want to interview, we'll have to talk again about the interview date. Originally, we talked about May 30th, but there's at least 2 firms who requested if there's any kind of flexibility with that. That's not necessarily going to work for them, but just understandable, things come up. So if those firms are amongst the ones that we choose to interview, we'll just want to talk about maybe modifying that interview date. So that's again what we're here to do this morning. I I have the sheet that I compiled all of your evaluation sheets, all of your total scores for each firm. I have that here. Apologize, I don't have copies for everybody. So I don't know if you'd like me to just go ahead and list them off in order of score. And then we can talk from there, or how you'd like to proceed. You all also have everybody's evaluation sheets. The packet I gave you this morning is everybody's evaluation sheets for each firm. So you can kind of see where your whole committee members were, kind of in relation to what you were. And it's interesting because we've got a pretty wide berth on pretty much all of them, but that's the point, right? It's multiple perspectives. So it's good to have those different perspectives on something like this. So if you'd like me, I can just go ahead and go 1 through 5 based on your scores, based on the committee scores. If that is the way you want to start.
Yeah, let's start.
Okay. Alright, so number 1, based with a score of, so total scores were 100 points total. That's what people could earn. And then again, the scores I'm going to give you are the averages amongst our evaluation sheets. So with 84.8 points is Stantec. With 79.4 is Olson. With 78.4 is Lakota. 76.4 is Planning Next. And 73.8 is Marvin Planning Consultants. If you need me to read that again, I can.
Yeah, go a little slower. I got to Lakota.
So basically, Stantec is 1 based on the score. Olson is 2. Lakota, Planning Next, and then Marvin Planning Consultants. So that's based on the scores. That's how the 1 through 5 shook out. Okay. Just want to open it up for discussion. Again, number of firms it's all of the committee, apologies. It's all of the committee wants to, go forward with interviewing for the next step. And then also if there's any, based on, what I read off, that doesn't necessarily have to mean those are the ones, if, you have other input that's like, well, wait a minute, I know this, or I know that, or, and I want to input about that. So I guess we can maybe start with how many firms we actually want to interview, and then we can whittle down from there.
I had 3 that I was interested in.
I had 2, and it's the top 2 that were listed. And I'm sorry, I struggle with the evaluation sheet of trying to put thoughts into a number. I just thought that with Stantec and Olson that had a pretty good vision for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to evaluate in real time. And maybe that's because I kind of deal with things more on a local basis to start with, which is fine. But I think to get to where we want to end up at with all of this and what's important, I think they had the best vision for it.
Well, I had those 2 top, but then after that, Lakota Group, another 3rd, I didn't like them at all. The MPC, whatever that was, what the name officially?
Marvin,
Yeah, I had them as 3rd. But a question, and part of it was the way the evaluation thing was set up. What I liked about it then, they've done a lot of counties. They've done a lot of counties in Kansas and Nebraska, which is what, and like Lakota and that Planning Next, the others have done a lot of cities and a lot of big cities, which don't apply. I like the fact that they had done a lot of counties. They didn't, one of the things they got voted down, or at least on mine, was understanding existing work. They barely mentioned the fact that we had done anything, and their timeline seemed to go long. But that's something we could negotiate with. I thought, because they've done so many counties, I thought they were a good option. That was my thoughts on them.
So just a quick note, for the Lakota, Vivian reached out to a colleague of hers at, I'm sorry, I'm gapping on
Lewisburg. So Jean Carter at Lewisburg. I know through the Kansas Association of Public Information Officers reached out, they did their comp plan with the Lakota group, and she said they had great success. enjoyed working with them. They were really professional and she had only good things to say. I did pause. It seemed like staff did a lot of the legwork for the communication portion. So they reached out to different groups and organized them in kind of unique ways that they visited senior centers, they went to the high school and tried to get a really wide variety of. Oh, yeah. I'm not even new here. I know what I'm supposed to do. So the Lakota group seemed like they asked for a lot of legwork from staff to gather folks together to do the public input sessions. They reached out to groups in unique ways. I think they got a good cross section of the community. That was my ding on them, really, that was the feedback I got from Lewisburg. But they enjoyed the experience, they were proud of the product, and it worked really well for them. And I have Lakota a little bit higher because of that. I've worked with 3 of the firms through the city. So the local Stantec, Olson, and Planning Next. Planning Next did the strategic plans for the city back in 20. And they were very responsive, very professional. I liked the product, and they did a few events that seemed unique to me. They had kind of a day-long session, had people coming in during Third Thursday. We had kind of boards set up at different points.
I actually had them third, and I thought they did. I think you're right. Maybe the other one did a little bit more county work, but so have they. And they've done a lot of college communities. Maybe some of them, maybe the list of other 3. And we are a college community, and that is maybe a large portion of the county plan in general, but at least a pretty good section of it.
Man, I thought their presentation was very generic, so they got dinged for that, but they are familiar with the area, so.
Okay, well, I had Olson first. For me, it was the highest scoring. I like the fact that they're local and they they have really good references. That they will, most likely understand more of our rural issues than some of the others. I had Centec second. They've done a lot of work with the Flint Hills Regional Group in Fort Riley, so I thought that was a plus. It seems like they're really heavy in Fort Riley work, more so than K-State and the rural communities. That's what I'm mainly concerned with are our rural communities and development there. And I saw most of that in the top 2. Planning Next. What did I say? What? I think they were probably the lowest that I scored. Mainly because they're really metropolitan focused, So and Lakota was I scored them about the same. That was that one a little bit more, but they are a Chicago-based group again, and I was thinking they were all too city-oriented and used a lot of consultants kind of things. But I did have Olson and Stantec at the top.
So my ranking was a little bit different. I think we're kind of pretty consistent with those top 2.
Top 2, I think they tend to read on that.
I had Olson 1, Stantec 2, Planning Next 3. After that, I didn't really too much into it.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
Let's see what I had.
So I'm sorry.
Like the numbers,
Santec, and did you want to do a third?
Like I say, I just thought that whatever the NPC was, just because they've done so many counties that they seem, you know, they would have. Be interesting to see it. They seem to have more relations with counties than the others that the other two just were more cities.
Which one were you saying?
That Marvin thing.
Oh, Marvin, yeah, I had them third.
I think they should be ranked last overall.
Well, but like I said, because that one thing was, they didn't mention, you know, what was that? To me, a huge part of the big percentage of that number, understanding work already completed, and they didn't mention that very much, so I'm sure that hit down, and then their timeline saying 12 to 18 months was a thing, but again, that's something in an interview you can tell them 12 months, okay, 18 not, you know, and just see what they have to say. But I thought, just because that my thing was just because they've done a lot of counties in Kansas, Nebraska, they kind of know more what's going on here.
They seem to have the most rural focus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my impression.
Yeah, I had,
Again, they were the top two were easy, I think, and then for me, they were the easy third, but the other two just, and like, good, it's county versus city type of thing, was one of my thoughts.
yeah, and it seemed with Marvin too, that I noticed, and it kind of ran with the bottom ones, that they seem to be really focused on Manhattan I-70 corridor, which we aren't really, and Fort Riley. They didn't mention anything about the impact of K-State on the economy, so. And I saw that in the bottom ones. I didn't see that in Santec also.
So we can do just the two. I mean, because again, it is pretty clear that, you know, those were the kind of, you know, shook out for the top two.
I'd be fine with that.
But I, you know, if it wants to do 30, I mean, I don't want to say, but people only do 2. It just, those two, of course, rose the top for everybody,
For
so.
everyone, yeah, I
If,
think
you know, if
those
we
were-
wanted a third to give us that extra consideration, we're perfectly fine if we're comfortable just doing 2.
Yeah, Lakota was just like 1 point behind Olson on the average.
I do, as a, just from a legal standpoint, right, we have a lot of flexibility in especially for the procurement of professional services and Rich, anybody feel free to chime in about organizational, like timeline or how we've done this in the past, but just generally, from a perspective of, do we have to stick just with the numbers versus when we're talking back and forth about different, do you know what I mean? This is not one of those processes and procedures where we're determining, okay, highest and best is based just off of the numbers, right? That's the whole point of this and having everybody come in. So to the extent, and again, it's totally commissioner perspective, but to the extent we want to have in 2 or 3, right? You don't have to just take the third that was third ranking, right? If you pull out a different third, right? And you say, oh, I want to talk to these folks, even though they weren't number 3 in line because let's say it's Marvin, right? Because I want to focus on the county perspective, whatever. Totally your prerogative. So there you go.
Go ahead, Rich.
I think that's true. What I think would be unique in that situation is having the last place one be your third.
Yeah, and that's true.
Interesting.
Without me having
Yeah.
So maybe
numbers
interview all 5 is what I would say if you want to do more than that, but it seems odd that the last place one would be your third.
Yeah. I was wearing I used to represent federal grant recipients all the time, right? And there, we don't have as much, right? There, it's like
Numbers.
select. And so here, I just want everybody to know that we don't have to be quite as, but I would agree, generally, you don't have your last one complete from.
I think there's a little bit more it's a little bit more muddled amongst the other three outside of the two, what that third one would actually be.
And I think it's
We have a
different. when-
clear, we have a clear two.
Yeah, that's when I think it's different. When you have a clear two.
Yeah, it seems pretty much everyone agreed on those
Yeah.
with top two.
So we just want to go
Not
with
along the
the-
third, and they were
Two.
a step ahead,
Yeah.
although the numbers don't show that. There was a drop.
Okay, so we're gonna do two. Okay, so Olson was one that requested, May 30th did not work for the majority of their team. So I just wanted to talk to our group about seeing if we could, so we're gonna do two, so we need 2 hours. So I'd like to dedicate an hour for each. So we originally had some time for May 30th.
Just, I want to be sure we get a motion or a consensus of which two we're interviewing because we haven't totally finalized that. Yeah.
So, is there a different date we can?
Can we do one on the 30th and one
I
an
think
hour?
I'd like to do both of them back to back.
You want to do it that way?
It makes it.
Do we have to do May 30th?
Oh,
We
Well,
should
that's
the
that's
week
the
after.
request if we can push it from May 30th, because that doesn't work for at least one of our firms.
We can do that.
It doesn't work well for me.
Okay, so we'll cancel May 30th, and I think if it's okay with you folks, I do want to make sure it's gonna work for our firms. So let me reach out to both of them and then work with Cindy for time on your agenda, and hopefully we can get something within the first week of June, but I want to make sure it works, of course, for our interview meetings and then for your agenda as well, so if that sounds okay.
Then we need to make a motion to make that official.
I'll make a motion that we interview Stan Peck and Olson for the comprehensive plan consultants.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to officially plan interviews for both Olson and Stantec for the consultant work for the comprehensive plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, and I will be in touch about what we're gonna do with these. And I'll have different, if I hadn't mentioned already, I'll have
Yeah.
updated evaluation sheets and interview questions prepared for the interview. So,
That's good.
thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Well, it's okay. Brian Parker.
We still got a minute here.
Oh, yeah, we just,
Yeah. Okay, you're good, man. I guess we had 30 seconds, my bad.
I'm always here for strict compliance with the agenda. So Brian Parker, Deputy County Counselor. Today on the administrative work session, I wanted to just kind of give an overview of some of the things I've been doing over my extraordinarily long 8-day tenure in the position. And to that end, I've already been blessed to work on quite a few issues with various departments. I'd like to thank Clancy and Jana and Shannon for doing such a good job of organizing kind of a task list that was outstanding for me to get started on. Probably helpful since Clancy saw fit to take off on my 3rd day for vacation. So I've just been more or less flying, not blind at all. I have had very distinct tasks, and to my recollection, touched almost each one of them already on the list. The thing I wanted to talk about that's kind of the most standout so far is the progress using the new Senate bill on nuisance abatement. And I know nuisance abatement is always I don't think it's anyone's favorite topic. It's just something that we have to deal with and we have to do. And for for anyone listening to the audience that may not be familiar, the new Senate bill, we call it 162. I think it was actually passed as Senate Bill 384. I have to double check the number. Basically, what it outlines is that once a property has been found, a property owner has been found guilty of a property code violation, then any kind of code violation, the underlying cause or circumstance that constitutes the violation, we can start a process that then comes before the county commission to make a finding that, yes, these facts do exist and it's proper to go in and have that cleanup occur. And instead of just hoping and praying that the owners of the property go ahead and comply, we now have teeth to make that happen. So we can actually, as a county, go in and either do it directly using county staff or hire out the service to have cleanup done, and then charge that back in the form of the same way that taxes are charged against the property to recover those costs. Obviously, that's not something that we would ever consider as a position of first resort. That's certainly not how staff and I have been working on it as a philosophy. For those of you that would be thinking about existing cases, we have cases that have been going on for years, some things that have been existing for over a decade. And I can tell you, my predecessor, I'm thinking of Greg in this regard. He and I met with Darren and Amanda on this yesterday. I've had multiple meetings with Amanda on it already, and trying to outline what is a proper process. And by proper, I don't just mean legally, right? And I don't just mean bare minimum compliance with statute, right? What is the best way so that we can help educate our citizens that, yes, this is a new tool, number one. Number two, what's the best way to achieve voluntary compliance so that folks are aware, right, there is going to be compliance one way or another. And what we've come up with is that the bill comes into effect July 1st, right? I'm working with Darren on some language for a letter that's going to be distributed to our existing known violations and those property owners. And basically that letter is going to explain, okay, great, you are already well familiar with us because we've been working with many of you for years. Also be communicating that directly to their legal counsel in addition to the correspondence that we receive. And now we're not, not to say that we weren't using our best efforts, our hands were just tied for a long time. And so now that this new bill exists, oh, by the way, right, we plan on using it. We definitely have a legislative mandate. I know when I was at the legislative delegation breakfast, Commissioner Dodson, not Commissioner, sorry, Representative Dodson specifically spoke about some of our existing ongoing issues. I know some of the other members of the legislative delegation are well aware, right? I'm sure they hear about it just as our commissioners do. And so we're going to send out that correspondence, and then we're also working on updating our, we do a great job here. I don't mind saying that because I've become familiar with our process. We have, I think, about 4 different letters that are issued before a notice of violation is actually, right? That's an extraordinarily nice way to go about this process. And that makes me happy, right? I've worked with other jurisdictions that don't necessarily take that approach the same way, where it's more or less, it feels adversarial. That is not the approach that I think anyone's taking in this. And I just reiterate that because again, I mean, apart from the fact that we're all human beings, we know it can be tough. That being said, the nice part, one of the nice parts about the Senate bill is that built into it is to offset some of the costs that the county would incur, as well as that they would have to be paid back to the extent they're salvage valued, right? We get to offset using that salvage value. Some of our existing cases would have substantial salvage value. Of course, that's not the reason why they're being brought. It's just, that's there as well. So that helps minimize the cost both to the county and then eventually to the property owners that would be responsible for paying it back. So long story short, we are marching forward on that. And our new process with updated letter language will be in place July 1st. And we're gearing up for that now. I think the last thing I would say on that, and this is kind of just for anyone that might be listening, this goes back to my days of being prosecutor. I tend to believe that the best processes and procedures apply equally regardless. And so what my intention is, as the person that deals with the court side of things, is that once, right, our planning and development department has gone through the whole, we've done all of our notices, we've congealed, we've cajoled, we've worked with people. Once it crosses my desk and it becomes a code violation, there's basically two different paths that are pursued, right? One would be a diversion, okay? But when we do a diversion, you're pleading guilty, right? And that's the plea bargain. It's going to be offered to everyone on same terms, right? And then there'll also be agreeing that as part of that, you know, the conditions exist that would justify our county commission for coming in and cleaning up under the statute, right? To the extent that whatever the plea bargain is, and I know I'm being pretty, but I want everyone to understand, right, kind of what my approach is. And if there are differences or thoughts or ways to improve, I always want to make the process better. And this is not dictatorial in any way. I'm just throwing it out there, right? This is kind of what I came up with under the statute. Just like my predecessor, Craig, had been doing, and to the extent that she helped with it, Shelley, I know she was involved in some of these, right? We're still set up to have timelines for coming into compliance. That can all be part of the diversion agreement, right? The difference now is if you don't meet those timelines, and we can be flexible, right? But if you don't meet those timelines, it no longer extends indefinitely. Then we go back to the court, diversion's been violated, right? Then the court, pursuant to the diversion agreement, would, I've never seen a court not make a finding of guilty. It's not automatic. There's some procedural due process things, but they have to make a finding of guilty. And then it would come in front of our governing body to consider whether the governing body wanted to make findings pursuant to the facts that the then violator will have already admitted to whether and what the timeline would be for nuisance abatement or for the abatement of that condition. So that's basically the process that we're looking at, and it becomes very standardized and doesn't mean that we don't work with property owners given the size of the condition that's at issue, but that would basically be, that's how we run a municipal court nuisance abatement that I've been involved with in several different jurisdictions, and I see no reason, because we always have these tools on the city side. And so I see no reason to change the basic process here. We just now finally have the statutory tool to do so. And I stand for any questions on that. And again, always want input from the governing body. That's kind of my MO is I don't do my job in a vacuum. So to the extent I can get any input from anyone that could possibly make what I'm trying to do better, I'm happy to change or to add to it. But I wanted to get the ball rolling by explaining what I envision the new process to be, subject to the understanding that I've discussed none of this with clients. Right. So, I mean, he may have additional thoughts, but I tend to think that he's going to see the same way that I do. So I think that's all that I had on that subject. And then everything else that I've been working with the departments on, some of it the department heads are going to be bringing to you, right? Because it's things that are current on their agenda, so to speak. And I'll let them cover that, of course. But I feel like I'm getting to work with a lot of different people, a lot of different departments, and I'm excited to see that grow. And I'm really happy that folks throughout the county are starting to email me directly with questions so that Clancy's not having to field everything, because I feel bad for that man. Sometimes he just gets inundated with email, and I want to make sure that we're getting folks answers as quickly as we can. So with that, do the commissioners have any questions for me? I'm done. I guess we're on break until 10. So
9:50.
9:50. Okay.
Brian, just be sure and use Vivian for the educational aspect of that. I'm sure Amanda probably would, but just so you know, on using Vivian as a resource should be great on that.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
this one will be tricky because it's property rights. And, yeah. I think the important thing to understand here is it's not everybody. It's a small handful. And the hope is that we don't have to use all those processes. We'll see. Sedgwick County hasn't had to use theirs yet, and they're in their second revelation of it. So, yeah, we'll see.
It'll be interesting.
Yes.
I'm hopeful. And the other thing that, and I'm hopeful, when I say hopeful, I mean, I'm hopeful that we don't have
Yeah.
to, Commissioner.
We all are.
I think the other thing I would add is, I mean, I'm a farm kid, right? This is not intended to be, I mean, we even had this discussion when we were talking about it. This is not intended for, there's a whole bunch of things, and I'm not trying to speak out of school here. There's a whole bunch of things that go on naturally in a county, right? That's why you live in the county, right? And I don't think, I can say for certain, none of us are trying to interfere with any of that, right? We're talking about a handful of situations,
Excessive. things.
right, that are extraordinary.
Long-term excessive.
Long-term excessive.
And long-term excessive. And the other thing that I think about from a legal standpoint and and practical standpoint is when we get to some of those excessive situations, right? There's attractive nuisance that comes around. And the thing that worries me, and sometimes there's also when you have an outside entity that's kind of confirming that some of these things, it can be difficult sometimes for us to realize, okay, this is something I have to address, right? And I think that even that identification can be helpful as well, but without sticking my foot in my mouth, right? The last thing we want to see is one of these excessive situations. What if a kid wanders in there and gets hurt? I mean, that's the other thing too. That's the thing that really informs what my thoughts would be about it as well. So yeah, Commissioner, not to belabor the point, but we very much echo that this is last resort. We're not wanting to go here. And that's why I also wanted to lay out how I would perceive the diversion process to work, right? In that, yes, there is this, for lack of a better term, stick, right? But just because we're going down this process and making it eventually it could happen, we're still working with people and we're sensitive to that. So I hope that all makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Property rights is a very interesting topic if you get talking about it. Many people that state it, once you point out a few things, really think about it.
Yeah.
Used to have those conversations with old commissioners, Mike Kearns and Al Johnson. Mike Kearns was in the yesterday. That's why, yeah.
My daughter's. And.
And he always helped us with elections too. He just.
But, but if it's in the normal business,
Yeah, he was helping us.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do that now.
Yeah. I can go see what you do for 6, like kind of if that works, but then interview meetings. Yeah, anytime actually. We're just coming out with it. Yeah, sure. So anyway, yeah, I told her. Anyway, are you gonna go over and see John?
Yeah. Brian and I.
Okay. I'm a little nervous about that. I don't know if this is too much. I mean, that's what it sounds like at least. So there's kind of two taxes. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's that. Oh, that's what I was thinking, so.
right now, a lot of it's in trees.
Yeah.
Just.
Do you have a few minutes post meeting to chat?
I'll be here. I will be here. Lord willing. Nothing happens in between now.
You just never know.
Commissioner, I think that discussing nuisance abatement is my least favorite.
Yeah.
I,
The odd thing about this, I think all but maybe two are situated in my district. It's on southern end. Yeah. And most of them are kind of in that little urbanized zone that's kind of in and around the city of Manhattan, if you haven't noticed.
yeah.
It's the further north you get, it's not a problem.
No.
You know, and I explained it to like some of the community groups, including like the Farm Bureau, I'm like, you know, it's, you know, ag's out of it anyway, so it's, you know, it's, that's not an issue, but I said, you know, even if ag was in it, I said, what I've found on this is, you know, farmers, ranchers, most people, they use their land as their livelihood. They're not gonna destroy and damage or do anything of nuisance to their own properties. That's their livelihood. It's people that don't value that idea of what property is supposed to do and be, and that's the offset to it.
Well, the thing that I struggle for the words, and I tried to during the like comment, that's why I wanted to talk so much, not because I like hearing my voice. But this is, again, as a farm kid, there's certain things about the farm that we're not touching. It's like we had two vehicles that we were waiting to restore. They were well kept. We did all of, do you know that?
Yeah.
That's what the crop we're talking
And
about.
was it, let me think, March or something? I got a random phone call from somebody way up north, and I've known he and his wife for years, and he heard about this, it's like, was up in arms over just certain aspects of it, like, you know, we're gonna use it as a tool to come after this and that. It's like, I've got a little farm equipment up here, and it's been sitting up here for a long time, and it still runs, and I'm like, we're not worried about that, we're not gonna take a notepad and come out there and make marks about everything, but you know, when you've got property out there that matches up to somebody else's property and it's environmental and it's dangerous, or you're burning batteries or you're burning tires and you're doing it on a constant, consistent basis, there's a threshold there. You're not worried about your old 1940s tractor that might be sitting there rusted out. It's just sitting there. We're not worried about that.
I couldn't agree. I always think about all the things that there were every farm that I know of that has not turned into, you know, I mean, one of the big 3,000 acre operation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the family.
Yeah.
Right?
You've got 100 acres and, you know, you're debating every year whether you're gonna plant corn or alfalfa or cover crops, you know. That's your debate for that year because you gotta make a living.
Right. It's you all have a few implements that nobody's using anymore that are over in the hedgerow. Right. You've got, you've got things that are generally pretty tidy, but you might have some stuff that's in the lead too. That's like I envision myself. We're talking about people that are using the property as a junkyard.
Yeah.
And that's because, you know, again,
When you've got materials sitting out there for 20 years that you're trying to build a house on, that you don't even have a permit to build the house on anymore, and all that stuff's there and it's rotten.
Right.
There's some.
I got another one, you know, over by the airport where, you know, you've got probably asbestos and then involved, and I mean, those are the things that we gotta worry about.
That's what,
Also, you know, on here on 77 with that, you know, we've got neighbors that are concerned about that, not just visually speaking, but yeah. So
it attracts.
property rights are an individual right until they supersede somebody else's right who have the same set of rights.
You know, I got, after law school, I don't advertise this very much because I think hopefully you're already getting the feel that I am the opposite of an academic. I'm kind of a, you know, I try to be a pretty down to earth guy. But I actually got a PhD in they call it a doctor of juridical science in how the US Supreme Court has interpreted property rights. And I feel like you just summarized in one sentence what took me 3 years to learn and confirm, right? That's true. They end where, you know what I mean? And a lot of it comes back to this whole idea of nuisance, right? That's where it all stems from. And it's interesting that you mentioned around, you know, kind of this urbanized area, because that's where we really start to see a lot of the conflict come in. And, you know, it's not so much cultural or political or ideological. It's really just that real difference between urban thinking and rural thinking. yeah.
I'm not saying one's right or wrong, but I'm just saying there is a huge shift between that.
There is, and I think that the thing that I think about from a enforcement standpoint, and we can stop talking about it whenever, but I can talk about this stuff forever. The thing I think about from an enforcement standpoint is that even though we have a, you know, more urbanization around a certain area, I still try to think about it from this perspective. It's like, okay, right? At one point, this was more purely agricultural, right? And it may just be that these issues are coming more to a head now, but I don't think we definitely are not trying to go a step of saying anything that could possibly be related, right, to agricultural, right? We're not trying to stretch these definitions, right? We don't want to interfere with anybody's.
I think the legislature sometimes tries to do that.
Yeah.
But you know, Kansas by its own very nature has always been agricultural and very much so in the pioneering part of that, but by its own nature from the homestead times of the late 1840s, 1850s till now. Now our population is kind of shifting more to that urban designation in urban areas, but that ag component is still always going to be there. I mean, it's always going to be there, and it should be valued, very much so valued.
I couldn't agree more.
The shift that I've just seen in my role over the last 5 years is people that are in ag appreciate that, and they understand that, and they don't abuse that.
Agreed.
Yeah. And those individuals have those concerns. I point out to them that from my knowledge and my visualization, you guys aren't the issue there.
Certainly not from staff's perspective.
No.
And I can say sure as hell not from mine.
Yeah.
Like I am very I know I'm Switzerland, and I am in my position, I'm Switzerland, but personally, I'm very protective of private property rights. That's how I land, right?
We have, you know, like on the idea of taking the property, you know, eminent domain. I don't do it.
Yeah, I get it. There's a
Because I value that.
I mean, I get it.
It comes up here.
And I see all sides of it. My great grandfather, he used to joke he was the most condemned person in Sedgwick County because he had 2 businesses and 2 homes, all at different times, that were condemned for public purposes. And I get it. And I know that, I mean, I did a huge deep dive once on eminent domain. And they were even having to deal with this crap back in Roman times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were. And so, I mean, I do think, like, I've worked.
That's just because ancient Rome was more of a direct democracy, so
Yeah,
majority rule. So if the
yeah,
majority wants it, the majority is going to take it.
yeah.
Whereas here, it's governed by the rule of law. The majority may want it, but the rule of law is going to dictate that that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
That's what deviates our republic from any other form of democracy.
yeah.
And it's a key point,
It
not
is.
just in the rule, not just in law in general, but just how things deviate.
Yeah, so I do tend to take I take a very conservative stance on those things. And I do understand that there's going to be times when there's a, governing body decides that it's time to do eminent domain for whatever reason there might be. There's a reason why it exists under the law. I mean, it goes all the way back to our version of it goes all the way back to England.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also clear statutory protections that we don't do it for economic development purposes. Right. Right. Or to do like private property transfer.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the very basis and the foundation of this country is somewhat based off of eminent domain.
Yeah, it truly is.
When you break it down in its entirety, yeah, taxes and eminent domain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not everyone does. If you plan to do that today.
I look forward to our meeting.
Yes, me too. Yeah. Yeah, somewhat of a busy day.
It helps Friday go faster.
It does. I've been actually for about the last 2.5 months, I've been working from 5 to 10 in the morning to stay caught up. And it's quiet. We're on a 4-10 schedule, have been for about 2 years. So for me, I only work 2 days a week and I can everybody's off on Friday, so I can usually come in and it's peaceful and it's quiet and non-chaotic and I can catch up on things. So it's been kind of nice.
Yeah. Apart from the fact it must be exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like Thursdays are kind of tough for me because after working 2 10-hour shifts, 23 hours, I can wipe myself out pretty quick. I'm not getting any younger, that's all I'm saying.
You should feel sorry for him.
It wouldn't be like 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been an issue at all, but now there's some days when my body. Yeah, I just, anyway, on that note, Bob, it's your turn.
Oh. Should I read this?
You break it, you buy it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bob Isaac, planner. Today, we're going to talk about amendments to the land development regulations. And in your packet, just a brief background. As you know, the land development regulations, or the LDR, which I'm referred to as, was adopted on December 6th of 2021, but didn't go into effect until January 1st of 2022. If you recall, at that time, it was immediately amended because of the STR licensing requirements and things like that, and make sure that they apply. So since that time, there's been a few things that we've discovered that seem to work better than others. And those that are not working so well or seem to cause confusion, we felt that we needed to bring it before the board for your decision, maybe amend those. So like every other text amendment that we have, we take it before the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board and the Riley County Planning Board for discussion. From those discussions, we formulate the actual amendment text and then take it back to the planning boards for public hearing and then on to you for final approval. So I don't think this board has seen these specific, I don't know if they're up here. Let's see if I can get, here we are. Okay, specific amendments. So to be fair, we can go through those, but they are in your staff reports, and the reasonings for each one of those amendments is also included. Before I get to those though, I just want to let you know that on May 9th, the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board heard the request and unanimously forwarded a recommendation of approval of the amendments as written in the staff report. On May 13th, the Bradley County Planning Board heard the request and also unanimously forwarded a recommendation to this board for the amendments as written in the staff report. So, get my breath here. So the first one, and of these, by the way, we put them in order of the document. So they just flow that way. And it'll appear that some of them are a little out of order. The table and the definitions are separate, but they're talking about the same thing. So I'll let you know that's the purpose of this. So in this one here, yeah. Okay, so this talks about the ability to transfer a building permit from one entity or property owner to another. We have allowed that in the past, and we want to continue to do so. It was never codified. It wasn't actually written down anywhere, and so that was the reason we wanted to put this in here. The other thing was on this particular section, it seemed to be a little out of order, and that's why you see there's a lot of text there. But really, here's the predominant, I should say, primary amendment here, number 6. And then the structure of the list was just moved around, but I had to include that so you can see that that's how it's going to end up. Any questions on this one? Or the reasons? Okay. So next one, this one was a suggestion that was made by Elizabeth Garden, our consultant for the land development regulations, to put this language in the LDR, and for some reason it did not make it in. And there was some other language in there that we thought, well, it was close, but not quite saying what we needed it to say. And we found that there's multiple regulatory documents that have this in here, so it doesn't a minor typo or a simple change doesn't have to go through all the way through the public hearing process to get that changed. So that's what that is. Okay. The other one is just a tag on the manufactured home park licensing. Again, this is one of those things that we allow that the licensing or the license of the manufactured home park to be transferred from one entity to another, or one property owner to another. But in this particular case, we would appreciate some notification of that, so we have their document or their information on file. So when it comes to any violations or anything on that order, we know who to contact.
Isn't that done with the Register of Deeds?
What's that?
Isn't that done with the Register of Deeds?
The licensing?
Yeah, if it changes hands.
Yes, yeah. So there's a deed, again, we wouldn't be notified. So we're asking the holder of the license itself to notify us that.
Okay, you don't get that notification.
Yeah, that's what this little lip right here is, just that we're asking for them. And with that, we can also make it clear in the writing portion of the license to say, hey, if this is going to be transferred at any time, this office, this department needs to be notified. And it's more of a courtesy, and so we don't have to run around trying to find out what's going on, if something a manufactured home park sells.
Okay.
Changes hands. Okay. And this is to add clarity. This is a change. We've had situations where someone wants to do individual storage units. So you have multiple buildings on the same track. And so which one is the principal, which one is the accessory? If it's, one principal and multiple accessory, it doesn't fit into our accessory building regulations. So that's an issue. We decided, in this particular case, campuses, that kind of thing, multiple buildings on the same lot. We want to make it clear what's going on here. Any questions on that one, by the way? Okay. And this table here, this is our land use table, and there's going to be a few things that are going to be changed on here. I want to get to, and I'll talk more about the vehicle and equipment sales and service categories a little later in this presentation. I want to get to this one here, and this one here is removing the letter P from the categories of C1, C2, I1, and I2 zoning districts for site-built residences. And what's going on here is this caption here. Residential use shall be limited to one dwelling unit that is incorporated into the commercial building and is subordinate in area to the commercial use therein. And as shown on the table, it is a little misleading. It looks like it's allowing houses to come in, and we've had that situation, particularly in the commercial districts in Raleigh, with the city of Raleigh. Where a gentleman moved in a house, owns the business, but he moved in a full-size house, then changed the zoning district. And so you have this hodgepodge zoning in this area. So that doesn't work out so well. We want to try to keep the uses separate. And in this case, it would be built in. So you could look at the perspective of, yes, the site built because the building itself being built, that's site built, and it would be incorporated into that building. We wanted to make it clear what's going on here. Okay, next up, agritourism facility license. This is language that is not in there now. Anything you see in italics has been added. And this is one of those, along with the natural resources and extraction. These are licenses that are not transferred to another, are not allowed to be transferred to another person. Multiple reasons for that. As it really comes down to not just running with the property, but it runs with the actual person and what they're doing. Any questions on those? Okay. This is next one. This subject here is it's been kind of an issue in the University Park. Dealing with it now. On a serious note, yes. Yeah. What happened here is, and I summed this up fairly quickly. In the original zoning regulations, we had 5 single-family residential districts, and in 4 of the SF4 and SF5 were the large lot single-family residential districts with a minimum acreage of 2 acres. And in those districts, you could have stock animals, not the others. When it was brought over, the use limitation language was simple, and it didn't go to one particular single-family residential district. It would just simply apply to all of them. And that was it. If you have 1 acre, you can have a stock animal. And we found out, and you found out too, that it's fairly easy to replat lots and get that acre and still have issues. And we figured with the residential livestock that we like to allow, like chickens and rabbits and chinchillas, that kind of thing, those are low impact. But stock animals maybe don't belong in areas of higher density residential development. And so with this, we're removing the stock animal option from SF1 and 2, or excuse me, SF2 and 3. SF1 is the large lot single residential district. It includes donkeys, by the way.
We kind of figured.
Okay.
It comes with it.
Right. Okay. The question with all of that is, stuff like this is, and we've been getting this question is, how does the Board County Commission want to approach this as far as grandfathering? And the way I approach it is if it comes in as a non-conforming use and it's allowed to live out its days and the bearded horse philosophy kind of thing, you know, so. Yeah, it's one of those, they're limited. It won't go on indefinitely. This is a situation here with riparian buffer is noted by our planning compliance specialist that during Hobbs, you noticed that our list here of prohibited, and why we have this in a chart that says you can have it here and you can have it here, but you can't have it here. What that is a chart that is because there's two buffer zones, buffer zone 1 and 2 along a riparian area. And here, this is just, it doesn't, you can't have it in either zone. And it was just noticed in the, it prohibits all these things except for maybe commercial and industrial buildings or structures. And if someone could do something with it, and he thought that we needed to include that on this list. So that's what that is. Okay, so in this one, the Article 9 is our definitions, and I believe, let's see. Yeah, we got this. So it goes in and okay, so this is just simply removing this as this term is going to be renamed and redefined as vehicles and equipment sales service heavy, as I'll get to in a minute. This was a little odd. I don't know how that got passed to begin with, but these are the standards for residential design manufactured homes. This is as close as we have to building codes. And each for a manufactured home to be considered residential design has to meet certain criteria. And this is one of the first. And so this is how we have to determine it. A minimum body width of 22 feet. And that excludes porches, decks, awnings, carports, and detached garages. Why is that? It sounds funny, but you can have a detached garage that's attached to your house by a covered breezeway. So in a sense, it's an attached, detached accessory structure. So no, those don't count in your 22 feet. So we wanted to make that clear. Anything that is attached has a common wall with the house itself. So it's like your most people's houses that have the built-in garage. That's what attached is. So it's more of a plan and a definition, but we made that clear here as to what we're talking about. Okay.
We're getting close to time on the agenda.
Okay, you're quick then. Okay. So the vehicles and equipment sales and service heavy and light, that's what was borrowed from the city. We wanted to make absolutely clear as to what's going on. And we've been having a lot of problems getting that clear because of what use goes in which district, whether that be commercial or industrial. And I think this helps out quite a bit. And the sexually oriented business definitions, what we had in here is operating off of the same language that was in the resolution that was previously needed to be revised. And so we wanted to make sure that our language in the regulations was consistent with the newly revised resolution regarding sexually oriented businesses and a state of nudity. That's what that's about. So anyway, that's what we have. Again, both planning boards recommended approval unanimously of the amendments as you see in here. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to field those.
Now on the heavy and the light up on principal building, those are all commercial. Are they going to agree with our new I know we're discussing about nuisance property? You know, like a business that we do have is considered a nuisance property because they're doing heavy service, but is that gonna?
I'll see if I can.
No,
I don't think so.
They're,
Heavy basic.
they're doing other things. They were supposed to have auto dealing and they don't actually technically have a license to be doing that.
Right.
Hence, that's the nuisance.
And salvage.
Yes.
So in this,
If they were actually doing what this suggests, and they may be doing what this suggests, they would be okay, but they're doing other things outside of that.
exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it didn't conflict with our nuisance.
One of the things on here is this is gonna
Technically, we wouldn't be basing that definition. Technically, it would be the court.
so with this.
What, for nuisance
Yeah.
definition?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, yeah, the court's gonna be, we look to the courts for guidance on definitions of nuisance. Okay, what were you saying?
I was gonna say this, what this does is really, demarcates the line as far as what uses go into or which would be allowed in the commercial district. And which of these uses need to go into the light industrial, so that's separation.
Hmm.
So the heavy stuff would obviously go into the industrial district, where the light would be permitted in the commercial districts.
Wasn't a lot of that, didn't some of that have to do with what's the, like the light stuff, maybe depending upon our zoning regulations along the highway corridor, and some of the heavy stuff is more located in our dedicated industrial areas? Is that,
Yeah, that
was kind of the gist?
yeah.
Okay, basically, was that because, I mean, again, I'm learning here, I'm just getting used to the community. But a lot of that is that we let some of the light stuff that would otherwise be strictly related to an industrial, we actually allow that in our commercial uses.
I think some of the language in here was confusing, which
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
really almost grouped into a category of like automotive repair and service, automobile sales and service, and like, okay, what service of what? And so that's what we had an issue with.
Okay,
And so everything under the sun could be, argued that it could go in. So we made it clearer here, hopefully, so we can separate out the uses. The heavier stuff is based on negative impacts from those uses. Noise, odor, chemicals, that kind of thing.
I need to ask that we kind of move this along because we're well into somebody else's agenda time.
Well, we need to clarify this. Okay. I was just worried about that.
That's fine.
That's,
I can talk fast. Okay.
okay. That was awesome.
Anything else?
Any questions on anything?
Just turn this. Lost track.
No, got it here. Okay.
Okay,
I'd like a motion to approve resolution 05-2324, approving the request to amend sections 3.21, 3 as listed.
Yeah.
On land use regulation that's from Riley County.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 05-2324, approving the request to amend the sections as listed in the motion, included in the Riley County Land Development Regulations for Riley County, Kansas, and as is written in the staff report. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please. Next, commissioners, time for Vivian Lay. You okay with Vivian starting?
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian. Sorry, we took too much time there.
I have really good day, so I think we'll be just fine. So Vivian Lane, Public Information Officer, we had a very eventful spring. Anywhere.
It still continues.
It still continues, so hopefully I'm not off for that. We've gotten through the worst of it, but we're ready to respond if we haven't. I need a little feedback from you on a few things. I'm working on crisis communications plans, updates for the health department, and then hope to build something that will cover the whole county, including kind of methods for doing things. And if I happen to be in Oz somewhere during one of these events, that someone could pick up this manual and be able to continue emergency communications pretty seamlessly. I've talked before, I'm working with Michelle Horsemeyer in emergency management. She has an interest in being kind of a backup PIO at some point. So getting her experience and training to that, but the piece I'd like to ask you about is how you like to be notified of things. So if the Emergency Operations Center is opened, we're monitoring for severe weather, something severe happens. I certainly include you on any news releases, you get those, but would you like a text message? Would you like a call? What's the best way to kind of let me know what the situation is? I feel like a call, if there's time to do that, is probably an easy way to just give you a summary of what we're seeing, what's going on. Or an email, what sounds good to you.
Can't you set that up on Everbridge as a text?
I mean, you can get texts about things are happening, but if you want details, what's
Oh,
from the
yeah.
EOC, or if you have questions, you can certainly contact me. I've got my work phone with me.
Usually when it comes to emergency management, I usually just reach out to Russell,
Okay,
but however we need to do that, that's fine.
okay, just wanting to know your preferences. If what we're doing right now is good, then we'll continue that. But if you feel outside the loop sometimes, I want to make sure to bring you.
Well, that's gonna be good, you know, if the EOC is initiated, just send out a text saying it's started because of this,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay,
It could, and like I said, I know you've done a good job with these releases of what's going on, but just let us know that, yeah, the EOC has been called in because this is going on. We'll let you know what's happening, you know.
okay.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I don't know, you know, I'll hear updates on the radio, but it's more generalized. And it'd be good to know if you have convened into the EOC.
Yeah.
Okay, we can certainly do that, and we, whoever convenes the EOC, often it's Lori for severe weather. We have a staff list that just says EOC has been activated for severe weather. It's a subset of Everbridge. So I might just add your cell phone numbers to that as well, and then I could follow up with a text. Just so
Okay, that
that
would be
I'm
good.
there and available to answer questions, okay. Okay, easy peasy. Ba-ba-ba. Okay, so I think for the first time in my career, it was not my disaster. So I got to go to Westmoreland and assist rather than kind of be the lead PIO, which was a really valuable experience and reminded me of how much help I've received over the years during floods and COVID and more floods. So it was, I was honored that they asked me to come and grateful that Rich allows me to participate in that kind of activity. It's really important to have that network of local communicators, since most organizations, they're lucky if they have one dedicated communications person. The larger organizations have several, but if we don't have those strong relationships, it's impossible, like with Westmoreland in particular. They got national news coverage. So the phones rang with CNN and the New York Times, and these reporters are coming on scene, and calls are coming in and emails are coming in. And there's just really too much work that has to be done immediately for one person to ever handle. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that national thing was interesting because I was at home later in the evening and I get a call from my mom. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Nah, yeah. They're about a half an hour away. We're fine." But she had seen it on national media and made the connection, so.
And it happens immediately. So if you don't have folks that you've built those relationships, and you can call on to say, okay, please come to the EOC. We're at the sheriff's office. I need you to help field these questions, get information to the residents first and foremost, and then figure out what's going on and how do we navigate all of this national media attention well, because when you're on that stage, you certainly want to represent the town well, make sure that people aren't being taken advantage of, keep the media where they're allowed to be, keep everybody safe. And it's definitely more work than one person can do. So I've been fortunate to have good folks I can call on to help when we need it. And then I was able to help with that as well. And then we had a collaboration moment with the Berkland Axleton wildfire as well. We got together with the Kansas Forest Service PIO, and then again, the PIO from Potawatomi County, Becky Bryan, who I can't say enough about. She was amazing. She stayed, like her hair was on fire, basically, this whole emergency response period, because she was just doing everything. And she managed to keep a cool head. She might not have felt cool, but she handled it gracefully and well as somebody who's relatively new to this type of work. So I was very impressed with her and happy to have her on the team. So that is that. Media relations in general, I just really need to share some praise about Doug Russell. During the Berkland Axleton fire, he spent a lot of long hours out in the field and coordinating crews, and we had wonderful support from other agencies, even around the state, who kind of showed up on scene, and he was trying to orchestrate. Russell spent a lot of time out there too doing that. But Doug, when you call him and have a question, he's there for you. He's a great manager and orchestrator and always willing to help, and you can stick him in front of a camera and he will stay cool and calm. He got out of the helicopter, came over and participated in a news conference, cool as a cucumber, and that's rare. So I appreciate his efforts very much. Having the spokesperson be able to kind of, I mean, he's in his fire gear and he's telling people what's going on because he's the one who knows the most. Having somebody who's comfortable with doing that is pretty rare. So I just wanted to share some praise about Doug. See, I think he's doing a fantastic job. I'm also working on a few education campaigns. Since we've had so much rain, vector-borne disease, like we all know mosquitoes are coming our way. We've had that wet, humid spring. So trying to get some weekly education out through the health department's pages about just dumping standing water in your yard. So I've been working with them to make sure we're sharing verified information from credible sources. That's a really important part of what we do communication-wise from the health department. Budget information, that's been on my list for a long time, and finding ways to explain the budget process in really simple bite-sized chunks has been a challenge for me, and Brittany's been very helpful with making sure that I'm explaining it as simply as I can, but she understands it a lot better than I do, so she's provided a lot of guidance. She better. Hopefully all of you do too, because I have a very loose understanding of the budget. I'm trying. But letting people know about the budget process and about their opportunities to weigh in and kind of what you're considering, working on that. And then of course, hazardous weather and emergency situations, working in that all the time. And then I met with Rich and election staff recently. We're going to be launching some campaigns probably in August for voter education to let people know, especially those East State students who might have registered in their home county, but then they show up on voting day here thinking that it's once you register to vote, you're registered everywhere and you can just come and have your ballot. Making sure everybody who wants to vote fills out the proper paperwork and has the opportunity to vote in a way that makes sure that they're counted. So either they come and register in our county and participate on our ballot, or perhaps request a mail ballot from their home county so that they can participate in those local elections and vote for the president. So lots of very complex things, trying to figure out how to explain simply and easily for attention spans on social media is a challenge, but we're tackling it. And there have been other communities at the clerk's conference, Osage County, talked about the rates of voter registration and voter turnout among young people that are related to a campaign that they did aimed at younger voters to kind of educate them about the process. So I've reached out to them for some advice and information to see if we can do that here as well. And I know that because I did presentations at a clerk's conference. And I am getting more comfortable with a teaching role and trying hard to do that. But I've got a couple internal presentations that I kind of take around and a few more that I want to develop media relations, how to talk to media, how to write for the web, all that kind of stuff. So I've been fortunate that people allow me to come talk to them about things, and most of the time listen. One of the presentations about media relations, and what's my end time? Let's see.
You're 2 minutes over.
Oh, okay.
You thought you could talk fast.
I thought we could talk fast. Well, thank you. The rest of the information.
We'll give you a few minutes.
Okay, stats, all of that has been pretty consistent. Website information. This is actually for April. I'm sorry, that's a typo. For the entire month of April, our user number has gone up, and of course, civic alerts was our top because we had so many things going out to tell people about situations and big fires and news updates. And then the rest of that, it has been pretty consistent, although you can tell it's fire season, or it was fire season in April.
You have some pretty big trials. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Pretty.
The parking lot was pretty full,
Yeah.
so there's probably,
It's an
We had a
indication.
couple of high name trials.
yeah, and
April.
juries check in on that page to see how they're required to report and
Gotcha.
all that stuff, so. And
usually
their
does
picture
look
over there, this ranks higher.
Okay.
So, I was hopefully going to talk about news updates in particular and make sure I'm getting you information that is useful to you. So if you have communications questions or data or things that I am not bringing or things that you want me to do in a different way, I kind of share with you the things that I think are important and that are interesting to me. But we all know that I have a sense of humor that is different from most people. And maybe so maybe this is not in line with what you're hoping to hear either, but we can talk about that. I'll email you if there are other things that you'd like to know about what's going on in the world of communications for Riley County. By golly, I'd be happy to tell you.
Oh no, you liked Greg's joke this morning.
You really did, I told you. Do we, please, Bob? Yes, Bob's here, so
Yep.
I will fill the floor and know that I have a dad joke in the queue if you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I was gonna say, you can leave the lights off.
Oh,
You're Bob. Yeah.
thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you. Well, you usually turn them off.
Oh,
Yeah.
Might be. Hey, good morning. I'll try to fly through this as fast as I can. Edward and Shiloh Field have made application with Raleigh County Planning and Development requesting to replat lots 27 to 31, 32 of Mobile Gardens along with lots 1 and 2 of Mobile Gardens Unit 2 into a single lot. Subject site is generally located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Freeman Road and Freeman Circle off Total Cove Road. The subject property was originally platted as lots 27 through 32 of Mobile Gardens in June of 1964. In February of 2005, lots 28 through 30 were replatted as lots 1 and 2 of Mobile Gardens Unit 2. Lot 27 is currently developed with a mobile home, as are lots 1 and 2 and lots 31 and 32. The applicant wishes to combine the aforementioned lots into a single lot, eliminating all abandoned mobile homes and build a new site-built home on that new lot. There's not a request or a requirement to rezone the property at this time. The property was rezoned from G1 general agricultural to A3 single-family residential during the zoning district conversion process in 1974. The A3 single-family residential zoning district was renamed to the SF3 single-family residential on January 1st, 22. There are no variances, conditional uses, or special uses associated with the property. The Raleigh County Fire District Number 1 will continue to serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Tuttle Creek Fire Station located at 5020 Tuttle Creek Boulevard The septic site has an ISO rating of 6, as it is located within 5 road miles of a fire station. There's a first water stream, Wolf Creek, shown here in amber, runs along the far southwestern corner of the subject property. The lot will be subject to the riparian buffer requirements of section 6.3 of the Bradley County Land Development Regulations. And as a result of that, of the presence of that stream, a very small portion of the southwest corner of the proposed lot is located within the designated floodway that's shown in the green hatch. So this is the final plat illustrating the orientation and location of the new boundary. Although the lot lines and building setback lines will be vacated with this action, there's an existing 10-foot utility easement located at the southwestern corner of the site that will not be vacated with this replat. It is utilized. The lot is served by rural water and an on-site septic system. The replat will increase the size of the individual lot enough to meet the area requirements of the sanitary code. A few pictures of the property. This is standing at the southeast corner of the proposed lot along Freeman Road, looking west at the applicant's home. The mature trees beyond the mobile home are part of that Wolf Creek riparian area. Turning to my right, looking northward along Freeman Road, this is the driveway into the lot, which will remain, and the detached garage that serves the home, which will also remain. A closer look at the driveway and garage with unoccupied mobile homes in the background. And a closer look at the unoccupied mobile homes that will be removed with the applicant's chicken between them. And finally, this is the corner of Freeman Road and Freeman Circle. As mentioned, these mobile homes are scheduled to be removed prior to the recording of the final plat. As the planning board conditioned their approval. Okay. On that. So staff suggests suggested that be the case. So on May 13th, the Riley County Planning Board heard the request and unanimously approved the final plat of Michaela 2024 edition, replat of lots 27, 31, 32 of Mobile Gardens, along with 1 and 2 of Mobile Gardens Unit 2 into a single lot. With the condition that unoccupied mobile homes be removed prior to the recording of the final plat. As it was determined that the plat met the minimum requirements of Riley County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. His current residence here will remain until such time he finishes the house prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the home. He will need to remove that mobile home. So that's the arrangement at this time. So staff recommends that the Board County Commission acknowledge the approved final plat of Michaela 2024 edition, as it was determined that it meets the minimum requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and the Sanitary Code. Do you have any questions for me? That concludes my presentation. Pretty standard.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 052324, approving the request. Wait a minute. Okay, do I have the right one? Wait a minute, hold on. Something happened here. Okay. I don't see where I can't find it. It's just,
That one?
Okay, well, I motion to approve resolution 052324, acknowledging the final plat of Michaela 2024 edition, replatting lots 27, 31, 32 of Mobile Gardens, lots 1 and 2 of Mobile Gardens Unit 2 into a single lot, accepting easements right away as shown on the final plat. As it was determined, meets the requirements of Riley County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code.
I only found it. Somehow it jumped. I would second that.
It's been moved in second on a motion to approve resolution 052324, acknowledging the approved final plat of Michaela 2024 edition, a replat of lots 27, 31, 32 of Mobile Gardens, along with lots 1 and 2 of Mobile Gardens Unit 2 into a single lot, and accept any easements right away licensures is shown to be dedicated on the final plat as it was determined that it meets the requests and requirements of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. All in favor?
Aye.
All three signs, please.
Those motions keep getting bigger and bigger. You're doing it intentionally. I know you are.
People did have a lot of lots.
Yeah, I know, right? Speaking of property.
We are back on schedule and we have a minor out here for a sign.
I was on that whole thing and then all of a sudden it jumped back to Vivian's presentation. We didn't do that.
Gremlins.
I think so. My grandma-
Next we have Julie Gibbs at 10:35. Commissioners.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem.
That is so strange because I was looking at this.
So there's that.
Don't forget you got to sign Mylar.
Oh, I do too.
No.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
I don't know. He might have Clancy's name by it though. You might.
I bet it can wait for a day to get filed by Amy if so Clancy can sign it.
That is technically only a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like a long ways away, but it's only.
Yeah, just one day. You know?
Thanks.
Yeah. That's
Maybe a third.
maybe you never know.
You know, you should meet Julie. I've never seen anybody drink more coffee than Julie, and I'm a fan. I mean, I'm in.
Well,
I'm
then
gonna call you Laura like it.
that's you should hang out up in my office then because
Yeah, but Julie always does the good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. She's a high-end coffee drinker.
I already emptied this one and then I just did a cake up. Didn't have time to go get.
See if I can
This is my
find
largest
this.
Travis, and I knew Michelle would bring me a copy of it today.
There's a lot. That is.
Just text. Yeah.
Charge $1 apiece.
I told the girls. I'm gonna go-
Yeah, I did take.
Just-
this.
Just downtown, yeah. Yeah.
Let me do this.
Don't have my knowledge. Yeah.
Cover that, yeah. Okay. Thank
As
you.
always, like, I try to start my internet every day. Mom. Yeah. Doing other construction, I have to get through to get here. I at least see Starbucks.
Students' time now. We need a motion to start.
I would make a motion to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the Board of County Health.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recess as the Board of County Commission and reconvene as the Board of County Health. All in favor?
Aye.
Floor is yours.
Great. Good morning. Julie Gibbs with the Health Department. I'm here with a request to fill a position that will be vacant starting July 19th, hopefully not for long. Our current APRN, Teresa Stewart, has announced her retirement. So July 19th, that will be her last day. So we're looking to go ahead and get this position posted and hopefully filled. We do offer family planning services, as you know, so this position is very vital to those family planning services. This is part of our aid to local package. So this position is responsible for reproductive health services to include breast examinations, STI testing, birth control evaluations, et cetera. Those are just a few of the things that this position provides. Very beneficial impact on our community as this person is constantly busy. So you see a lot of patients through our family planning services. This is included in our current budget and for next year as well. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
You may want to add that the position was rated, so have
Yes.
less budgetary.
Very good. Yeah, this position has been regraded. So we took a look at the position description, made a few changes and regraded this position. So yeah, it will have less of an impact on our budget.
Explain.
Based on market value of this, the current market value of this position in the communities in Manhattan, Kansas. This was previously graded as a FF, I think, and we appropriately moved it to a D. Based on where all of these positions, PRNs are making in Manhattan, Kansas region.
Still highly.
It's still, yeah, it's still competitive. Thank you for pointing that out. But at the same time, when we graded that position, we should at a higher rate. That's just the kind of way it goes, particularly in, I would say, particularly in the nursing field, like there's just a lot of ebbs and flows and demand change. And so
Your issue was during the pandemic, but a lot of contract nursing.
Gotcha.
Salaries were inflated for sure dramatically, but as that's begun to subside, salaries. Okay.
yeah, this is still a competitive, well-paid position, but it will positively affect your budget, besides the fact that Terry had long tenure,
Yeah.
you know, so I mean, there's that as well.
So it actually, based off of experience, could actually even be a little bit less depending on where that individual falls. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're new, they will make significantly
Right.
less than Terry did, but she wasn't that, you know, she came experienced, by the county's been here for a while.
Okay.
How long has she been here?
I want to say I was gonna say
7 to 10 years.
So,
Yeah.
just history on this position, I hope we get it for this rate, because we had it at this rate before. Could not get anyone at this rate to York. And, had to bump it up higher than the health department director's salary to get anyone to even look at it, to get the current one. So we will see, the market will tell us.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's slightly above the median rate for an APRN in our community, right? And so that's what I'm hoping for. The other thing is there's a lot of value to this position. I mean, there isn't nights, there isn't weekends, there isn't an on-call perspective. It does take a unique perspective to want to work in community health and have that passion. But I feel like the person who wants to do that, this is a great job. So we just have to make sure we get into the right communities and see what we can do.
With the public health program at the university and the expanded education program at MATC, maybe we'll have a better pool of people this time around too. So,
Well, and you know, we have considered this and Jacob and I actually just talked really briefly about, you know, the time it might take to fill the position, which is why, you know, July
Yeah,
19th.
that's plenty of
I
time.
mean, we're ready to put this out there so that we can see it. We'll keep a close eye. If we're not getting candidates, we'll have to come back to you and readjust, right? All of the data we've looked at really puts this at a good.
I just know there's a struggle with APRNs just in general at this moment, so that's why I asked. Okay. Okay. I'm done. Sorry.
Okay.
I move to approve the Board of Health filling the APRN position.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the filling of the APR in position at the Rider County Health Department. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you.
Okay, I would make a motion to recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recess as the Board of County Health and then reconvene as the Board of County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Next commissioners is Mr. Ellerman at 10:45. We'll come back, Mr. Ellerman.
Thank you.
Where'd he go?
I left the country and went to the reservation. Apparently, we're not in the United States when you go.
Oh, I saw pictures from that, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kansas County Highway, look again.
KAC posted some stuff on the, stuff in Mayetta at the
Yes.
casino, you know. Did you win anything?
I did not try.
That was gonna be my second question.
I didn't lose anything either, except for a few golf balls.
Well, that was pretty well attended. But judging by the pictures I saw.
Had 110 to 15 and 54 counties.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, new cars all have new gadgets on them.
Yeah.
Discovered. So last night, Jim's thing, new car has automatic. The brights,
Oh, really?
yeah, the lights approach it. The brights, it automatically dims the lights.
Really?
Speaking of, I noticed something on mine too, the automatic windshield wipers.
Yeah, I heard
It's certain way on there, it just works on its own, and I never noticed that. before.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Yes,
one.
yes,
That
yes.
drives me
When it's pouring
crazy.
down rain, the
But
other
she's
morning
trying to
going
turn
to
it
work, I had to turn the windshield wipers on and they were working. I thought, I didn't
Sometimes,
do that.
I didn't.
It gets kind of annoying when you just got a drop or two.
Yeah,
Then they'll go off.
and it squeaks like, I don't know.
Yeah, like two drives.
Yeah.
Like,
Come on.
Reading was trying to figure out how to turn that off.
The one gadget that really, really annoys me is the tire pressure reader. Oh, that's the,
up and down and everything.
yeah. Every time it drops, the first time it drops below 32, like the tire pressure gauge will like drop in half. And obviously the tires are fine, but it just frustrates me. I told them, can they take them out? And they're like, those are federally regulated, so they can. Whatever.
Yeah, one,
Mine's like, it's in there in the information packet. I can go to and find it too, but.
Ready for Mr. Ellerman?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Ellerman, Public Works. I have a couple positions open that I need to fill. First one here is the traffic control. This vacancy was my transfer of one of the employees out to the transfer station. So we have traffic control position, full budgeted position. They take care of the signs out on our roads. They actually make some signs for around buildings and other parking lots and departments. It's that position, one of them, they stay busy. We try to keep them busy every day. With two of them, we have one going north, one going south. Unless they have a big enough sign where they need two people to help put them up. So asking to rehire a traffic control. So
yeah, I do agree with Public Works, advertise for hiring the open traffic control that position.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Public Works Department to advertise and hire the open traffic control technician position. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Next position is public works operator. The current position will become vacated Friday, right?
No, it's Thursday.
Right, we'll be back again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Jose.
Yeah, that'll be his last day, so we'll have a position open in the gravel division. So gravel road maintenance. Definitely needed as spread out as our gravel roads are. To replace that position. This is actually a second retirement for him. He came from us retired and was one of our capers retirees from before, so.
Since you brought that up, that will also be a positive budgetary impact because Capers working after retirement is a 30% cost to the county of your pay, whereas other employees pre-retirement are 6%. So I'm sorry, 9.9, ours, there's a 9.9%, significantly different, 20% difference.
Okay. I would make-
Retirement.
I don't know.
Don't get me started.
On the horizon.
Not for me.
We say that every time.
Not for me.
Every time.
Me either.
Keep working, John.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I'm
You're welcome.
into that tunnel too.
Damn boomers.
Okay, I'd make a motion to approve the Public Works Department that they advertise to hire for the Public Works operator position.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Public Works to advertise and hire for the Public Works operators position. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm just bagging on all generations, aren't you,
Yeah.
today? Both sides.
Right.
What, you have the millennials earlier or what?
Yeah, I lived the millennials and Generation Z all in one. It was
It's
beautiful.
all in that.
We
Nasty
haven't
iced
hit the
coffee.
millennials yet.
Regular coffee's fine. I have no problems with that. Oh,
You understand, like, we've been working with millennials for like 20 plus years, right? Like,
Doesn't mean we enjoy it.
I'm actually in that stupid subsection that they call ex-millennial, and it frustrates me.
I do realize that because we had a young commissioner, Commissioner Ben Wilson, who the commission would discuss it frequently, and we always agreed it's a good thing there's so many of you because it takes twice as many to get the same amount of work done.
Oh, my goodness.
Or Ben.
Okay, I'm out of that commentary, but maybe not officially, but it's not the HR perspective.
What's this are coming from?
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I'm contributing it myself too.
At this point, yeah.
I like to.
So the next one comes as a request
Oh,
from
yeah.
the city of Manhattan to borrow or rent our asphalt bid. They are looking at different ways to be more responsive to fixing, repairing, patching roads, that before they think about purchasing or long-term rent, lease a piece of equipment, they'd like to borrow something that we have that may fill their bill or may not make that decision for them. So they're looking at a couple, 3 weeks to take our paper out and try to see how it works for them and if it's a benefit to them to fix their roads. Statutes out there that allow us to loan, rent equipment. I'm sure with Brian's help, maybe in any class, we would have to really get an agreement put together for them to do that if we so please. Right now, our rental rates, or at least our charge out rates for this equipment is a little over $300 an hour. I'm not sure that's necessary. The biggest cost for me would be, or at least the most important part would be, is something breaks down.
Yeah.
They repair it, put it back and bring it back to us in the condition we get to. I
I
will send out an operator to a day or two or to get them,
Show
show them how to run it, make sure that they're familiar with any of the machines. The inconsistencies or whatever that machine has special about it that they wouldn't necessarily know. Get them comfortable using it, and then I don't want to send an operator with them every day either. It just takes out of my crew that we have other things to do. Sure. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I trust them that they'll do what they're supposed to do, but Brian does what he says he'll do for it and fix out the machine after anything that happens to him.
Or do we need to charge them a fee for sending a person out with them? I mean, would that be a consideration?
Typically, we would. That's up to you on how you want to do that. I probably wouldn't. If we do a minimum amount for the machine or nothing at all, I'm okay with it.
I look at it this way, it's a taxpayer expense and the citizens of Manhattan and Riley County. And
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just the way I'm looking at it. I mean, I do agree if something breaks,
Yeah, that's.
maybe a small
Insurance.
charge to help with maintenance, maybe. I mean, when you're using the machine, you're obviously putting wear and tear on the machine. Really outside of that, if they,
Yeah.
I mean, they need to fix some roads. I mean, that's just-
That'd be nice if they
Yeah,
fixed them.
so I don't have.
It may be good to get the machine out.
Exactly, so I don't.
Tell them which roads they want fixed
Yeah.
first.
Hey, there you go.
I did mention that. I said, I've got a couple I might recommend, but maybe I'll let you see how you work
Yeah.
with this before I have you film.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I get asked constantly about use of equipment, combination of services and stuff. So I don't have a problem with this. And like I said, if we were rented to a company or something, I would charge, but it's a taxpayer expense just coming back to us. And
I say as long as you have a contract kind of, that they've got insurance or something to cover anything. It goes.
Yeah, we would, what I think, I mean, the big things we deal with in a contract like that is repair, just like we said. When we send our person out, they're still our employee, right? And making sure that they carry all the insurance, but so much of that, they have that already because of their coverages and everything, so it should be very short.
okay. Go ahead.
My only question is, there's a limited time frame when anyone can use an asphalt paving machine. So how does that impact our use of our machine and on our roads?
We seldom use that. Last time we used it was on 59th when we rebuilt that section there. Mainly because it's difficult for us to get it. We don't do bigger projects because of the cost with the asphalt company wasn't much less than if we have them do small projects. We don't usually have a lot of these small projects that we're overlaying parking lot or something like that we haven't used to hold.
So maybe we sell it to them.
Alvin Dixon might be a little too big for them, for what we think they're gonna use it for. It's an idea. It's not something that hasn't crossed my mind as how often we use it, and what we use it for.
Just thoughts.
Yeah,
Do you use it for the millings that you're gonna put on the parking lot?
we will not. I mean, that is dry. We'll just blade lay that.
Well, I didn't think that. I was just wondering if that was.
I mean, we could almost put it through there and run it. It just kind of smooth them out, set them, lay them out a certain thickness. Right. I've not seen it with too much dry material. I've seen it in papers set up a little bit different for concrete. Some of the drier concrete mixes run through a paper similar to that.
Okay. We'll have to process, we draw up a contract and then come back with it for review it.
Yep,
Okay.
and we can do that if you want to have it as quick as next week's meeting for that. Well, I mean, I've got to work with my counterpart over there, so. I mean, I could have it.
It won't be ready to bring to them for next week because I won't be around
Yeah,
until Thursday next week.
so
Yeah, we'll get it all. Yeah, I'm taking some time for it. Before I lose any more hair.
It's too late. You walked into that one.
Well, I'd move to approve Public Works into an agreement with the city to rent the asphalt paver.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve entering into agreement with the city for the use of the asphalt paving machine. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Next, commissioners, you have Elizabeth Ward at 11:05. A little bit of a break.
Wow, Mrs. Vargo, Riley County Best 7th to 12th grade teacher.
Yeah.
Nominee.
What's that?
She's in one of the nominees for Best 7th to 12th grade
Yeah.
teacher.
Oh, right.
News to the husband, huh?
And that in Mercury, right?
It is. It is. I mean, I knew that already, but
And actually, she's in there twice. So she's Mrs. Vargo at Riley County, and then she's also Darnell Vargo. So she's,
cool. She's both.
she's both.
Well, the next one she'll actually be the county clerk, probably.
Huh?
She'll probably be the county clerk the next time.
Her?
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
You ready to trade jobs? You're gonna go to the.
No, I wouldn't
Yeah,
trade
I was
because I'd be put away quickly.
To see that. I want you to
I'd be put away quickly.
see what could you teach 7th and 12th? What would be civics? Teach government class.
Manners.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna say-
Human resources. He could teach human
Things
resources.
he can.
Hopeful.
Nothing, I got
I
nothing.
got everybody laughed on that one. Wow.
Nothing. He didn't even look my direction. Golly. I'm sure he could teach quite a few people about human resources. He has a lot of experience.
No, you got 5 minutes.
I know, I was
Okay.
kind of doing my head count here to see, I'm just missing one, I think.
Yep.
Thank you though. I'm not just all flustered for insulting my boss.
Who's baseball playing today?
Yes,
Now,
right now.
who are they playing?
TCU.
Michelle probably has a movie that's. She's really been following him this year.
Yeah, that's why we get worksheets to the clerk's office, because registration, casing.
Gotcha. I was even paying attention to that.
David Adams emailed me after I made my public comment and was like, jeans today, is it Friday?
Sounds like something he would do.
Yeah.
He does keep an eye on transfer dates. Michelle is,
Right, yeah.
thank you.
We know who really works. Well, I haven't changed it, right?
Share the score.
I thought.
Okay, thanks.
Hold up. That's it.
Bad news. 7-1 so far. TCU top of the sixth.
What it is, you just listen to have our number.
Yes.
I was impressed with yesterday's.
Yes.
I mean.
We got a complete game out of the pitcher too.
I was impressed with yesterday's. I thought we were gonna get smoked. And
West Virginia.
which is part of our problem though, but we left the bases loaded several times. You know,
I kept walking and full with that 14, 15. Yes, they were.
there's a lot of walks I heard.
Yeah, just, they kept pulling pictures and they just kept, and our guys were just standing there watching because they couldn't get the ball over the plate.
Really?
Yeah. The announcer was saying,
Huh.
why would we swing at anything until they get us, until they start putting strikes up there?
Interesting. Interesting.
But reading articles says that's the tournament. Test your pitchers more than everything else. Unless you got one every day.
Yeah.
You can have one or two good pitchers through the season. That'll carry you. When you get through, you gotta have them.
Yeah, you usually have one three and a good long.
You have good depth in pitching. Go through the tournament.
You were spot on. Please, I mean, of course, I follow K-State as well, but I mean, I grew up with, I'm from Wichita State, you know, and yeah. Yeah, so like you would, the years that especially if fortunate to advance to the regionals, right, you've gotta have 3 arms, yeah, or else.
Then in recent years, they'll take, like in game 1 or something, they'll maybe start one of their middle relief guys, and they'll pitch maybe like the first 2 innings. Then you bring your starter in, they're the expanded part of it, that saves your other 2 arms.
It's
And if you lose that first game, you know, then you're up against the wall, but you got your best 2 arms. For the last 2 games, so
What's the deal with those Royals? My goodness,
it's pitching.
6 in a row?
Yeah, they're off to actually their best start since 74 or something.
I'm tempted to go watch them, but I'd ruin it for them.
It's almost like so what you guys need to.
I wouldn't worry about it. They have so much, they've overcome so much bad luck already, you know, like you're saying.
June's gonna tell the tale because they've got to play Baltimore, New York, Texas, and Tampa Bay. Those are the AL teams. So they get through June, I'll really start believing.
Needed some caffeine.
I haven't slept too well for the last couple of nights.
That's not good.
Too many muscle aches from.
Yard work. Ibuprofen before you go to bed.
Yeah, I've been doing that. Having a heat pad too, but.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Not Barry.
Good, yeah, loving the drinks. Well.
We're all envious of you.
Often, sir.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Elizabeth Ward, Human Resources Director, and I appreciate you allowing us to present this morning while we're wearing jeans for K-State. So I do want to discuss with you the new and expanded position request for 2025. At each year, we ask the commissioners whether or not this is something that you'd like to consider, and then those department heads who can demonstrate a real need that have a change in business practices or an increase in workload or another reason that justifies an additional or expanded position come to you with those requests. I want to point out we have 4 requests this year, but really one of them is a current position. So you can see this community health educator has been funded up until the end of this year. That was a new position that we did, I'm sure you all remember, we did on a temporary basis, and then we refunded again through the end of this year. So that position would just be a continuation of what we have. And then 2 of these positions would be combining what we have as a part-time as needed
and kind of dissolving that part-time position and creating it into a full-time position. So I just kind of want to point that out as you look at it, and that equates for the different pay totals. You can see like Amanda's position, we've got a salary, and then we've got a dissolution of the part-time position, so that takes them off. Same thing with Rich's position, a salary, and then we would remove the current expense for that part-time position. So I did submit the justifications from each of these department heads, and I would like them to come and give you the crux of why this position makes a difference for Riley County. So we'll start with Amanda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director. None of you are surprised to see me up here, I'm sure. But my ask this year is a little bit different, and we want to explain why. Of course, I've asked previously for a second environmental health position, and I haven't gotten that. I have had to modify some of our services, kind of reduce some services because I just don't have enough folks to offer our full suite that we were. If I do want to offer the full suite, things like water testing, the home loan inspections, all of that stuff, I'm really going to need another person. I made those modifications last year when we had a gap when our previous specialist left the position, and then we had a gap trying to fill. Just had to make some modifications to keep things moving and make sure we were offering those essential services with the personnel and the contracts that we had. And then just with training and time and all of that, I just haven't brought back those services because again, the reality is I'm going to need somebody else, a second person in the environmental health world, if you will, to kind of offer everything that we want to offer again. So what I'm kind of shifting my focus to this year, and I know we talked about it in the past, is right now I have an as-needed clerical assistant. She works Monday through Friday, 9 to 1, so she's there every day. So she's technically, of course, part-time. The reality is we have enough work, enough things to do to have another person there full-time. So as Elizabeth explained, it's not somebody on top of the part-time as-needed clerical position. That position would go away per se, and we would just have a second full-time administrative assistant. I have an admin assistant 2 right now, and then the as-needed clerical assistant. So I have 1.5 admin staff technically right now, but I'm asking for us to have two full-time. And again, that has to do with office coverage. We're a small office. People are in and out. We're doing work in the field. I've got meetings and things to do all the time. This is going to help with coverage. This is frontline customer service. This is answering the phones. This is making sure when people come in, we're able to get to them right away, get them what they need, get them on their way. And also with all the work, things are definitely happening in Riley County in the planning and development world, which is a good thing. So we just need additional help spread across the department. This position it's a little bit more focused on environmental health and kind of fills in that gap a little bit, but really this position does help support all of us in the department. So it would kind of span the whole department. So I'm getting the music that I.
I just doesn't think that she touch on it. Amanda didn't talk about some budget things that she's done to make this. And so you had asked her previously, okay, what else can you do? So we had originally tried to hire a specialist. If you remember when Perry left, we could not find someone with that skill set. So we did end up hiring a technician, and that has been a training process, and he's doing fine, but he is a technician level. So that does lead to not only some of the gap in skill, but also it does have a budgetary impact. The technician makes less money than the specialist did. The other thing that you had asked is how can you be creative with that? Because she had asked for that health tech or health specialist position again. And so what Amanda did in creating this is she took all of the things that specialist or technician does that is administrative and transitioned that to an administrative assistant. And so I just don't know that she really talked about how she was thinking about the budget in this request. And so trying to cover what the health specialist does, but then give those admins things to this part or this full-time position so that he can then focus a little bit more on the health specialist or the health technician type of side of it, where we are having a big challenge trying to find that skill set. So, and we haven't looked now, it'll be enough, well, just a year, I guess, since he was hired, but we were looking for not here before that. So we haven't looked this year, but I wouldn't imagine it's much different. I just wanted to kind of bring that historical reference back in.
Thank you.
So there is also and it's not showing here, like 2 years ago, when you had in your budget for a new specialist. And we didn't do that, so that saved some money 2 years ago, and then this one would save some more money, basically, or add to that.
Right, so what we did for last year was hired an environmental health technician level instead of the specialist, so that saved a little bit of money there. When we did 23's budget, of course, that was in 22, and I still had EHS in that role, so the specialist in that role. So yeah, so that was for last year, that kind of, offset that a little bit, was a lesser, and of course for 24, since it is a lesser, skill set, as Elizabeth was saying, so a little bit lower in the budget. This, of course, going from a part-time to a full-time is an added expense, but it still offsets having that, and I'm probably not explaining this very well, having that specialist. And we're probably not going to find that skill set, so we brought it down to the technician. This position can help kind of support, do some of the office stuff, do some of the reports, things like that, and free him up to do the technical stuff, so.
And where the budgetary impact for this position is, instead of asking for a technician, which we may have a difficult time filling, she's kind of tried to transfer duties in her office to ask for an administrative assistant. Yes, there is an increase. I think it's I gotta put my glasses on, 39,000 is the impact for this position. But a technician or specialist would be significantly more. And so she was trying to think about ways to adapt to your requests, to be able to cover the services with the reality that we're in. Okay.
The tech that you hired, is he working towards being a specialist?
Yes.
I assume there's education that required.
Right, there's experience in education and testing that he'll have to do to get that certification.
How long does that take?
It's something that we talked about him working towards by the end of this year. So, that was the intent when we hired him last year, when we talked to you folks about having the technician position. We did get rid of the specialist position, we just didn't fill it there. We hired a technician with the intent that,
It wasn't.
after X year or two or whatnot, that he would be able to certify and then move up into that.
He's taking classes now, I see.
He's taking trainings, attending conferences, things like that, and then with so much of the stuff, it's honestly like on the job training sort of stuff.
Experience, get out there and do it.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Well, I thank you for working through this, over the last couple of years, trying to get all these services that we need.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, of course, I'd like to cover all of our full suite of services as much as we can, without, additional people. I just had to bring it down a little bit. We're still, of course, offering everything we need to and everything's required. But to kind of offer some of those additional things that would be very, very useful and are helpful and are used by our community members. I need some. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, so next we'll have Julie come and talk about her community health educator, and I did flip up just so you can see that total impact is 27,000, and then of course she has her memo as well.
Good morning again. So as you know, this work started when we obtained the Overdose Data to Action grant with the help of Potawatomi County and Geary County. It's a regional effort about a couple of years ago. We found out right away when that educator came in and did an assessment of the community that there was no specific education that was specific to opioid prevention. So that was very much needed in our area. Since then, we've hired Jenny to continue this work in Riley County only. And as you know, we are still in an opioid crisis. I get numbers all the time from Captain Friedline showing that we do need this work in our community. Jenny's done a great job of connecting with all of the schools, all the school districts in Riley County. So she's now in all of the schools giving her a presentation. We also have rights to the film, but we're still showing the film, trying to just, again, increase that awareness, increase that education with opioid prevention specifically. We've also started our substance misuse task force. We meet quarterly and our subcommittees are meeting monthly. We have 3 subcommittees, the response committee, the prevention committee, and the treatment committee, that we're trying to just share information and share data across the board to continue this education and continue our response to this crisis. So, and we've provided some numbers here as far as the need in our area. And she's only working 20 hours a week, but really this could be a full-time position. She has so much work ahead of her and she just continues with a great effort. She's doing so under the direction of Shanika. So it's been a good working partnership there.
I get keeping track of all the positions and help. I know isn't there someone else doing that? Some kind of opioid or drug thing? There's someone else, is there another part-time?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Andrea. She's with the Drug Endangered Children's Coalition. So that's another part-time employee under Shanika's direction as well. They do work closely together, but that's for another specific area. But yeah, they'll work closely together.
What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a separate grant. So that's actually a grant that
That's
she's
still a
working under.
funded
Yeah.
position? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Through, I believe, September 25. Yeah, so.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Jenny's position focuses specifically on opioids and the other position focuses specifically on children in any type of drug endangered environment.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's overlap, but
So the other one, it's kids who are involved or in a home with that, is that what you're saying?
Andrea's position is not so much education in the schools. It's more with the professionals who work with the children that are removed from homes affected by substance use. Yeah.
and then Jenny's position isn't necessarily limited to youth. I mean, we have a lot of focus on youth because, that's what things happening, but there's also been work with grandparents and parents who would have these drugs in their medicine cabinet, prescription drugs that might be misusing them. I know we made a request to have her come to the employee day in October to, speak about our employees so we can help, amplify that message and nursing homes, and there's been all kinds of things discussed.
Yeah. So the community. Yeah. Yeah, the work started in the schools, but we're expanding out from there. So we'll continue that relationship with the schools.
And that's what we're trying to do with the other counties and communities and we're getting cooperation.
Right, yeah. It's been a lot more streamlined, yeah, of Santa Maria County. Thank you.
Okay, so Barry, I don't know if you or Captain Friedland would like to speak. You want us to go ahead and talk about your position, criminal investigator position. And just to give you a quick recap, that position, this is a full-time position, so this would have a budgetary impact of 82,521.
First of all, I want to thank you for even considering this. I wouldn't come to the commission if I didn't think this was at least on our behalf, a need. I just like Amanda and Julie, I come to you. I'm not going to. We think all our positions are important and what we're asking for. And we understand the impact on the citizens, but these are things that we do believe are needed so we can better serve our constituents. We have discussed this for probably 15 years in our office and with the police department. The district attorneys in the state all have investigators. Some county attorneys' offices do, some don't. Martin County, I know, Kim talked to me about it. They had an investigator. This is someone who can go around and help us do really follow up on cases that come from the police department. Right now, Erin does everything she can, and she's going to speak to you here in a couple minutes when I'm finished. But we have cases that are submitted. We see follow-up that needs to be done, or we need to try to locate witnesses because people have moved on, they moved to another state, or crimes continue to happen or they continue to be involved. The technology has not been all good in terms of the crimes that are now facilitated and the evidence that is, technology based, whether it's text messages, social media now, so many communications and even crimes are being committed with social media and evidence of those that, trying to collect all that, synthesize it, and present it is really a challenge, and it takes up a lot of time, and I'm not sure that it's always, between the two agencies, we try to do what we can, but there are difficulties in having an investigator who has some background in police work and investigations would certainly be a tremendous asset in this regard. But following up with witnesses, following up with other jurisdictions. 2 instances recently, got a defendant who's charged with domestic violence crime, and the victim moved to another jurisdiction where he perpetrated another crime, and the victim went to California and then now is back, and we're trying to track all this down. I just sent Aaron an email yesterday, hey, can you, Captain Freeline, can you help us out on this? We send somebody to Missouri, I don't know, for our office, trying to have, secretaries do it, administrative staff, because they don't know all the ropes, all the networks that they need to try to work through. We have an individual who has made it a practice. He's from Missouri, but to go into malls and hit certain stores, and he's now hit 5 states. Raleigh County happened to be the benefactor of one of his criminal enterprises when he came here. Hit a store that he's made a habit of hitting $150,000 worth of product just in the state of Kansas, but in 3 different locations. But he's also committed crimes in Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. And that comes up here after we've already filed it. It's difficult for me to say, hey, Captain Freeline, can you cut somebody loose and track all this down when they've moved on, they've got other crimes that they're trying to work. And so it's really become, we've talked about it. I've talked about it with different captains in investigations for 10, 15 years, and discussed it with detectives, with attorneys in my office. And it's just come to that point where I've decided, sooner rather than later, we need to try to have an investigator who can help us in these areas, tighten up our cases, make sure that we're getting all the information that we need so that we can successfully prosecute these. Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that it's not uncommon for me weekly to get something from the county attorney's office on charges that they have filed and do that additional follow-up. And of course, I'm under my own directives to try and control overtime and some other things. So sometimes he can wear me out a little bit, and the miles on our cars, but I mean, we're all working for the same end game as well. But I've shared with him the sheer volume of social media data and other things that we have to discover and provide that to the county attorney's office. But one thing I cannot do for him, not triage that information any further for what he actually needs to present in court. And I think that's one of the biggest things is the sheer volume of that data. It has to go to defense and everything else, but as he's trying to truly present that in court and have those detectives testify to that data has to be mined a little bit further down. And of course, we get the crux of it, of what meets the criminal elements, but on what he actually needs to present in court is far different than that sheer initial volume that we produce for him as well. So it's kind of a 2-pronged approach that I would fully support him having a staff member that could alleviate some of that follow-up for us, but especially on that preparation for preliminary hearings and definitely trials that we just we are not able to help that office at all in that regard, so. But if you have any questions, I will help answer those too.
I'm kind of wondering if, like going out of state or out of town, you are the police, you're unable to do that kind of work. How do you get information from other entities like that?
So we can sometimes, it depends. Sometimes we can do it over the phone and we can record those phone calls for documentation purpose, but like, Mr. Wilkerson said, sometimes an in-person interview is more appropriate. We don't have any arrest authority or anything like that, but it's, it's just information that's building his case and whatnot. So depending if it's more on a suspect side of things, we would do an in-person contact to try and document those. But we have the ability to go out of state, and we often do if it's a serious high-level person felony. We do facilitate that in order to kind of capture the right information to make it presentable for court.
We've actually traveled out of state myself a couple of times with detectives to, interview witnesses and things like this. There's things you can try to do over the phone, but you're not going to gather as much information over the phone. Or if you try to, turn it over to another agency to try to help out, they don't know the ins and outs of the case and maybe the information we need. So we have used weekends, and RCP has been gracious enough to have us take an investigator along when we've done that, but we have had to do that on occasion.
Questions? Last but not least, I have Rich come and speak about his office of protection.
Good morning, Commissioner Rich Barber, County Clerk. Not going to go through all that data that's been presented. I assume you read through that. Any questions you can ask me about it. I guess the only thing first thing I'd point out is the addition of 100 employees, just in full-time employees alone, fire department, now elections that are all required to go through the onboarding and payroll process. It's significant. And as you can see, the stats compared to our peers, we're very lean, and Riley County always has been very lean, and I take pride in that. I mean, staff that's been with me a long time know my philosophy, and a lot of people don't necessarily like it, but I tend to try and hire the best people I can find and overload them. Because frankly, and even Elizabeth can tell you, and Barry can tell you, the more personnel, the more time that takes for me, politely to say, is personnel do take a lot of administration and a lot of bandwidth. And so I tend to prefer to run lean. The stats will show we are running very lean. What I would also point out, not only the 100 new full-time positions and over 400 temporary positions that are on the payroll process now, his tenure is not near as long as it used to be when I first started in this position. When people stay a long time, you don't have the turnover to deal with, the replacements to hire. I don't know what percentage, Elizabeth, you could say that has increased in the last 5 years. It is significant, commissioners. I'll be interested to see how many individuals are in their career for me now going on 33, and I'm not an anomaly in this county for my generation point in time, but I would like to see that with the new generations, how many make it that long, and that just takes that much more bandwidth. We have the temporary position, commissioners, which we're truly grateful for. It's the difficulty that I've found with every temporary position. That is a highly valued position that you put regular duties on. You become dependent on those. So we are dependent on this position. When that person is not there for half of the time, either staff, full-time staff is doing that work, or John Ellerman's waiting on us to accomplish some task for him as he's trying to recruit or hire someone. And so it takes away from the bandwidth of full-time staff where it's just not getting done. We are truly, the majority of our divisions in our office really service departments for the rest of the county departments. HR, there's also a huge liability with that. You know, we're trying to do more with full-time staff attending interviews for all departments to help reduce liability concerns and to be sure things are done appropriately. As you can see, I would point out the large list of department heads have discussed following concerns or things they would like to see improved. These are all things we're currently working on. These aren't things that we take lightly, but it takes bandwidth. Along with that, staff takes time off from work and we have to have people to cover in those times. And with a half-time position, you really don't have a person that you can rely on to cover for sick days, vacations, all of that. But we are highly dependent on this position. We just realized, I mean, I think we knew that, but we just had a transition in that position, in that time gap to where we weren't finding anyone. The workload was backlogging. And, you know, I work with the commissioners 2 days a week, many times more often than that as they will contact me. But all the areas in our office, you know, for additional information or additional projects, I probably get more questions from commissioners are, can HR do this? Can budget and finance do that? Those, as you commissioners know, that's where you're generally requesting that we have additional work or special projects. And that's what we're here for, commissioners. I'm not complaining about it. We're glad to do it. But then John Ellerman's waiting for, you know, the next process to be accomplished or whichever department head. Barry's not very patient either sometimes. But you get my point, commissioners. They rely on us to help them do their job and accomplish their jobs. And so I have no hesitancy in saying this is truly a need. Yes, it is an increased cost to taxpayers. We would do away with the part-time position. So that does help offset some of that. I would also let commissioners know, Elizabeth and I, it can be like herding cats on trying to.
Do you want to know the other companies? So you want to know?
What's that?
Did you want to know the other companies in our community?
Up here.
Yeah. Right there.
Right there, yeah. As I said, you know, you guys can read the stats and where we are and how lean we run. You know, I think I addressed that, and those numbers are the numbers. Anyone can go to those organizations and find out that is true and correct. But it's truly a need. Wouldn't come before you if we really didn't need that. The thing is, it is an increased cost, but sometimes those costs help you avoid additional costs. And so I'd stand for any questions regarding the position request.
And to Rich's point, I think the last time that we reported, it was just under 10 years. It's like 9.9, 9.8 for a 10-year. And in the 2000 teens, Bradley County was in the low, in single digits. So 9% was a high turnover rate. And I think the last time we reported, we were at 14.1. We kind of fluctuated between 12 and 14%. But we hit some pretty high numbers post-pandemic and really kind of settled that out.
Oh, yeah, we would definitely, I would not contend that we're near the pandemic level,
No.
but I think across the board nationally, you're seeing that people just don't stay in positions like they used to. And I know every time we get an applicant, you know, that was one of the first things I always looked for, you know, always learned to look for someone that stayed in a position for a while, because it meant maybe they're going to come here and stay. And it's not uncommon to see 2, 3 years, 5 years, where people are moving from one to the next. And it's one of the things that just kind of drives me nuts a little bit. I'm having a hard time finding those employees that stay somewhere for a while. And so,
Well, 2 to 5 years is a long tenure these days. I mean, honestly, when we're looking at applications.
and I'll tell you, commissioners, this is the position you're seeing in front of you. Point I was getting to, or Elizabeth wanted me to show you those other stats, is originally this position request was at a much higher grade. So this position request that you are seeing is a third, if not more, less expensive than what we were initially going to propose 2 weeks ago. And so we have looked at it very strongly to reduce it down to, you know, take some of the duties that free up some of Elizabeth and Michelle's time to do other higher level administrative processes for human resources.
And you'll notice, just I pointed out to Greg, because I know he and I talk a lot about the details, but like the employee action forms, employee separation forms, right now we're having our part-time as needed person do it. We have a lot of transition, and yeah, you've pointed out some things that clerically are not correct. And it's not intentional, but that's just what happens when you're running at a high speed.
So we found a lot of issues in the transition time where the last person had perfected and even processes within our office from election workers through the payroll process that, you know, that person had it worked out with our elections person that's working on bringing on the temporary election workers, and then they leave and then we're starting all over again. And it just caused, even within our own department, which they're, you know, 50 feet away from each other to communicate some issues. So stand for any questions, commissioners. Okay, thank you.
It's just in closing, I didn't ask for any action, right? So in the past, what we've done is we presented their requests and then scheduled a date farther along in the budget season to, ask you to individually approve or disapprove each request. And I assumed, but I want to make sure that's how you might handle it.
Yeah. I want to see the total.
Yes, and how this would fit in total. Yeah, absolutely. So good.
Well, that was the last item for today's meeting. Anything else? Anything? Keep in mind, Monday's Memorial Day, so. Oh, I won't be here. Do you want to be here? That's perfectly fine. I leave that up to you. I've got some other things I'm gonna attend to. So, long weekend.
Yeah, it is.
I need a chance to recharge my batteries. It's been a long week. I don't have anything.
Where's the dogs to be grilled?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. In between the rain, right?
Grills have covers.
It's Memorial Weekend. It has to rain. It always rains.
It always rains. Yeah.
I had one time used an umbrella, but I got something started, it started raining. I was standing right halfway
That's
through.
dedication.
But in college,
I
I'm
would tell.
in the midst of tornado warnings. Sirens are going off. It don't stop me. That's which way do you see the tornado? You throw the hot dog up and see which way it goes.
Then you know.
Then you know which way to take off. If you
Well, when it spins around, then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Go to the basement, right?
Well, I mean, it's not the last.
That's a Kansas thing, definitely. I would make a motion to adjourn the May 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Rutherford County Commission.
I guess.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the May 23rd meeting of the Rutherford County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good weekend.
You're supposed to go to you.